I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's actually 7 o'clock, although our clock up there says 5 after. It's 7. I'd like to call this meeting to order and accept a agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All those in favor to accept the agenda for October 21st, 2014, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. All right. Good evening, folks, and welcome. Our very first item on this happens to be walk-ins. Are there any walk-ins here this evening? Do you mind coming down here to the mic, please? I need you to state your name and your address.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Carmela Martel. I live at 155 Tilden Road. The subject of the intersection of Beaver Dam and Tilden Roads has been raised at the last two Board of Selectmen meetings. Part of the conversation included how it would dovetail with the Tilden Trail. I would like to comment on the subject of the Tilden Trail. Recently, we received word that a preliminary plan had been drawn up which calls for the trail to be built on the west side of Tilden Road, with trees being removed but not replaced. We would like to bring to the attention of the board that the project, as described and approved at the 2014 annual town meeting as Article 13, Item 9, doesn't seem physically possible to accomplish. It is described as a 6 to 8 foot wide, multi-use, ADA-compliant trail with 2 to 3 foot buffers and granite curbs. It should be apparent to anyone who has walked or driven on this section of Tilden Road that that amount of geography does not exist without altering the landscape and character of the scenic road, impacting infrastructure such as hydrants, utility poles, storm drains, etc., and taking land to achieve the required width of the approved trail. Furthermore, if this project is going to be accomplished via easements, is it appropriate to utilize public money to improve private land in that way? If, in order to squeeze this trail onto the roadway, it is substantially altered from what was described and approved at town meeting, then it becomes a different project than what was approved. We are very concerned that the voices of the proponents are the only ones being heard. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else for walk-in? Welcome. Sorry, we get started.
That's fine. Sorry.
Seeing that there are none, I'm going to turn to the report of the town administrator. Tricia, what do you have to report for us this week?
Mr. Chair, they grow ever longer, I guess. Just a couple of pieces of information. First of all, the town is sponsoring a development forum for builders, contractors, and vendors with the town. It's an opportunity for people who work with our building, conservation, Board of Health, and planning department, have good communication with the staff, and this is an opportunity to solicit their feedback on what we can do better, meet our new staff like Jennifer, Keefe, and Patrick, who haven't been here a long time, and also because we have so much development that we anticipate in the next 2 years, we want to have an opportunity to check with them and how we can do things better. And also really to explain how our development process works in the permitting. We've had in the past year a couple of developers who've never worked in the town before, and in 1 or 2 instances there have been issues, so we just really want to encourage people to do that. And it's November 3rd, which is a Monday, and there's flyers up in the town hall, and they've also gone out to folks.
What time?
7 o'clock, I believe, Tony.
Here?
I don't hold me to that. I think it's at Pier 44. The community building.
I was going to say,
The sign's
Community.
right out there. The sign's right out there by the door, so sorry about that. Just to just give folks another point of information, Jennifer Keith, the Board of Health Director, and I participate in a 2-hour conference call with other municipal officials about what the state and first responders should do in response to the Ebola situation that we have worldwide right now. There were over 320 municipal officials on that call last Thursday. We have a tremendous amount of information up on our website and our streaming on our cable station. So if folks have questions or concerns about that or want more information, I would refer them to those two places. But I also want to assure folks, if they have a concern about this, that our public safety officials, the fire chief and the police department and the dispatchers have protocols in place and know how to respond to any inquiries in that regard. So I just wanted to assure people about that. Wanted to follow up on an article that was in the Boston Globe last Sunday that said only 16.4% of children attending schools went to public schools in Scituate. That newspaper article unfortunately wasn't verified, despite the fact that 16% is an incredibly low number. To correct the record, 89.7% of the eligible school children in this community attend our public schools. And I know Superintendent McCarthy had followed up, and there was a very, very tiny correction on the second page of the Globe Sunday. But lest you think that we have 3,122 students enrolled in our schools right now. So I just wanted to give a correction to that. Through the efforts of Representative Cantwell, we learned last week that the $4 million seawall loan that we received from the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, which was a 2% 20-year loan payable over the term for $4 million, half of that has been converted to a direct grant to the town. So that's $2 million grant that we got for repairing 760 feet of seawall on Oceanside Ave. $4 million in total.
Can I ask you a question,
it?
John?
Oceanside Drive, sorry.
John?
If we don't accept the, the low-interest loan, will that make us look bad? I know you had a discussion with the town administrator in Marshall the other day. I mean, so if we say, and thank Jim, for all his efforts, but great for the free money, for the grant, but if we say no to the other half, how would that be received?
Well, A, we couldn't do that because they're bundled together, so we couldn't bifurcate them and only get the grant. Second is there were 37 communities that applied for these funds. There was 10.4 million statewide, and between Marshfield and Scituate, we got almost 5 million of it. So I would be hesitant. I would advise the board to be prudent before they thought seriously in that regard, and I'll just leave it at that. Staff updates. Just a few here for you, and then I want to go to the budget timetable, and I'll be done, Mr. Chair. I have appointed, as you know, Mark Patterson's last day as our harbor master after 25 years was last week. I've appointed Mike Bierce as our acting harbor master. Mike's been with us since May of 2013 and has worked as a seasonal harbor master since 2008. He's also been a seasonal police officer with the Hull Police Department. We have advertised the harbor master position on the website and other municipal and marine trade publications, and as we get applications in, we'll be moving quickly on that. Sean McCarthy has been appointed town engineer effective October 20th. He's been acting town engineer since February of this year, and he's been with the town since November of 2010. Sean has a BS in civil engineering from Wentworth Institute of Technology and has performed in an exemplary manner acting as acting town engineer while Kevin Cafferty was acting DPW director. Kevin's now permanent. Sean has been promoted to permanent town engineer, and he's also done a tremendous amount of work helping our Board of Health with plan review. Sean is here this evening, and I'd just like to congratulate him on his new position with the town. And finally, John Murphy has been appointed Fire Chief and Forest Warden effective yesterday. Chief Murphy is unable to be with us this evening as he left this morning to go to Florida to inspect the new ladder truck that is being built.
I'd be happy to have done that.
He was appointed a firefighter in October of '94, promoted to lieutenant in 2000, and made a permanent captain in 2006 and a deputy chief in August of 2007. Originally from Quincy, John, his wife Jen, and his daughter Lily live in Scituate. Chief Murphy has a bachelor's degree in marine transportation from the Massachusetts Maritime Academy. He is currently enrolled in the Suffolk University Graduate Management Training Program through the Mass Municipal Association. He's an avid boater and diver. The appointment of the fire chief followed the same successful process that was used when we selected our chief of police, Mike Stewart, last September. A two-day assessment center was conducted on September 25th and 26th with a panel that included the retired Needham fire chief. This assessment center measures such job characteristics as written communication, problem analysis, decisiveness, planning and organizing, delegation and control, and interpersonal insight. It also included written and oral components. The assessment firm met with members of the Scituate Fire Department to solicit feedback from staff as to what qualities it desired in its next chief. After the assessment center, a community panel was convened and grilled Chief Murphy during an intensive 2-hour interview on October 1st. Over 20 folks were in contact with our office to serve on this panel, and I would like to thank the members of the panel who prepared their own questions and provided evaluations of the candidate after the interview. Eric Pennenholt, Peter Minch, Christian Putnam, Chamber of Commerce President Greg Morse, Jerry Bauman, Christine Keenan, and Michelle Segazy. All but 2 of these individuals were unknown to me before volunteering to serve on the panel. The president of the fire union was also a member of the panel, but missed the interview as his wife gave birth to their first child, a daughter, that day. So congratulations, Patrick. The entire fire department staff was also invited to attend the interview and provide feedback. And I just want to share with you before I close a few comments that the community panel sent to me about Chief Murphy. I was impressed with his answers to the questions, as well as how quickly and methodically he answered them. He seems to have a good rapport with the men and women of the department, which goes a long way. He came prepared and related very well with the panel. He had attention to detail and paused to think through his responses and engaged us actively. This was a long, detailed interview, and his patience, enthusiasm, and focus never seemed to falter. A formal swearing-in for the chief has been scheduled for Thursday, October 30th at 2 p.m. in this room. So thank you for that, Mr. Chair. And again, John regrets he can't be here. And then finally, the last thing that's on your agenda under my report is to discuss and vote the FY16 budget timeline. I know with everything we have going on with our facilities, it's easy to lose track of the normal business of the town going on. This is a schedule that you see every year in the vote. It sets out the dates that we have to do everything to meet up capital and operating budgets, and the meeting schedule so people can flow from advisory to capital. The chair of the advisory committee and the chair of the capital planning committee have already approved this schedule. We have the board vote it, so it holds people accountable to these dates, because as you know, the charter and bylaw dates are so stringent that we really don't have a lot of wiggle room. And that is all I have.
So we're going to vote this next week?
You should vote it today if you can. If you want to table, it's not fatal, but as you can see, you're already into the timetable already.
All right, so as far as voting, it's not on our agenda, though, is it, other than?
It's under discuss vote under my report, John.
Oh, right there. Aha.
So, the only thing, I remember a couple times last, and I'd have to think about it a little bit, but I remember a couple meetings we had that were really long, because we did CPC and capital, like a couple pairings were just bad pairings. So that's the only thing, the dates are fine, it's just maybe change some of the components from one time to another, but I haven't looked at it close enough to see.
Is this identical to last year's?
No, it has actually changed up. I've separated like police and fire and a couple of other ones and streamlined. The schedule that passed this year and last year is a little challenging because advisory is meeting every Thursday night as opposed to the bi-weekly, which they did in the past, and I really prefer that the board see their departments before they roll to advisory, and that's really not possible given that they're meeting every week, so it's changed up in that. So they've broken up more.
All right, so how does the board feel? Would you like to, I mean, right now, today's the 21st, it looks like the only thing that we're behind is as of yesterday, the budget instructions and forms to boards and departments, but that's already gone out, correct?
Yeah, and if you want to do this later in the meeting to not take up valuable time now, John, that's perfectly fine, too.
All right. All right, take a look at it, and if not, we can always table it to 2 weeks. If not, then we can take a vote on it, okay? So we'll move on to the next agenda item and then come back to this later on. Just 2 points on your report, Tricia. On the first one regarding the Ebola, not that I want to be an alarmist, and I don't think anybody here wants to be, but if there's any kind of change, it would be nice to hear back from Jennifer and through you, as to maybe some situations the town might be looking at, just out there in the periphery. Second is, if Chief officially, well, I guess you could say appointed right now, because he's not official, right? He hasn't been sworn in. Murphy could come to our next meeting. It would be nice to, the board could formally appreciate and
Sure.
give him congratulatory remarks. All right, moving on to the next agenda item, seeing that it is now 7:16, we're going to go to a 7:10 public hearing to extend seasonal liquor licenses and change of Sunday hours for Sandhills General Store. I believe the entities being represented by Attorney Frank Colpoys. Good evening, Mr. Colpoys, and with you is Mr. Dan McAdams. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'll be brief. I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction here, and you've already identified who we have here today, myself and Mr. McAdam. And there's 2 items that are listed on the agenda. The first one is the change of Sunday hours, but I don't think that actually needs a vote or any hearing in front of the board. That's an automatic thing by just a filing. We did the filing at the same time as this other thing, so I think that's why it got on the agenda. So that's, I do not believe, for any consideration tonight on a vote. It's automatic.
The board's aware of that as a point of information, but the board will ask anybody who's interested in moving their hours as a courtesy to come inform them.
Okay.
So they can be assured that the liquor license and the location of the liquor or whatever is in keeping with what the original license was.
Okay, great. So, I mean, that'll be part of our discussion, I guess, on this other matter, but, so if there's any particular issues or questions, we're ready to answer on that, too. But just by way of history, we appeared before this board on June 24th, and at that time, this board voted to approve a seasonal beer and wine license for the time period from April 15th through November 30th. It was approved really within a week, almost immediately by the ABCC, and my client was able to start selling beer and wine at the Sandhills General Store immediately thereafter. What we're looking for here today is to extend by 45 days to January 15th the current license period for the seasonal distribution of beer and wine from the store from November 30th to that January 15th date. My client has been selling it since that July date. He made certain representations in front of the board, and those were all carried out. He installed security cameras in the building to monitor all the customers. He installed a high-tech identification card reader that is utilized on sales. And he also located the beer and wine. We represented it, not right when you come in the back, in some cooler areas there. So everything that was represented was followed through by the applicant. Business has increased as a result of that. I spoke to Dan before we came in tonight, and he says business is probably up about 30-35% as a result of that. However, the beer and wine component is only 8% of that. So what this shows is what we were trying to represent to you folks previously is it brings people in and it has them buy all the other things that we're able to stock in the store. So it's a great business tool, but in and of itself, it's not a huge volume or huge moneymaker. This is not a package store. Now we're going into the slow season right now. The community has strongly supported the business there, and we're only asking what's allowed under the statute. Nothing more and nothing less to go to that end date of the January 15th. Two other aspects. Number one, it'll allow my client to sell through the holiday season, which would be a good business aspect of the business down there. And secondly, any unsold items on January 15th will probably be able to be retained and utilized again in April, whereas if we're talking the November 30th date, there could be some inventory issues, so that will assist them. So as I said to you last time, we're just looking for the selectmen to allow us to use sort of every tool in the toolbox to help a local business that has fulfilled what we represented would be done, and that the community supports, and that has had no incidents or any issues since the license was implemented. I don't know if Mr. McAdam has anything else to add or any questions.
Just, Mr. Colpoys, I want to first touch on the Sunday issue, and that is that what is being proposed on Sunday? I know that the other stores, other distributors in town will have cordoned off for sections. I take the Scituate Market, for example. They cordon it off every Sunday so that nobody has access down to the aisles, or they'll put cords around the, I know in the back of the store, they'll put it around some wine that they have as a part of the no sales until I think it's 11 o'clock or something.
Well, now, the statute has been amended to allow 10 a.m. now, and that's an automatic thing by just filing the paperwork, other than what the board is doing here. So it's just changing the time from, I think, noon right now to 10 a.m. Otherwise, all the practices and procedures, John, that have been done, will be done again.
Nothing will change as far as
And maybe you
shutting
can,
off those areas.
is that what you do, you shut them off?
Shut them off, shut the lights off.
Okay.
So it's just changing it by 2 hours, which was, the statute changed.
Sean?
I was just going to say, I did this discussion with the town administrator about another place of business in town. And he's already doing this right now. It doesn't matter if it's noontime or if it's 8 o'clock in the morning. He opens before 10, so he's already doing it. He's already doing a good job of it, I can say.
A good job of what, I'm sorry?
Not selling to minors. I have, and this will lead into, I wanted to say before I had that thought, I went down there, I don't regularly go down in that part of the town that often, so I did stop in there and saw Dan. I didn't know Dan prior to our June 24th meeting. I bet I was in the store for a half an hour to an hour. They took my license, they ran it. I saw it firsthand how it worked. I saw where he, keeps his beer and wine. They have cameras all over the place. Really takes the guesswork or the gray area away from the clerk. They put this, they'll take a person's license, put it on in a machine, and it's literally, 14, 16-inch screen, blown up. Yes, you're old enough or you're not. It checks for a few different things, expired license, and I think Dan pulled out an expired license just so I could see what would happen, and, I stood there and watched it. So I think he's doing a really good job, and I'm in favor of it, as you can probably tell. That's all.
Yeah, just on the, I was just asking John, on the Sunday thing, the legislation has changed so that you can start selling at 10, that's what you're saying now?
That's correct, Tom.
So at 8 o'clock, when you open, you just cordon off that area, and then at 10 o'clock, you take the ropes down, is that?
The same thing we did when we, it was cordoned off until noontime.
Right.
And then we took it down. And
So
opened up
we,
some
on the
more.
license, though, we put times on the license.
Yes.
So we'll have to change our license, probably for, everybody that comes in and asks, because if it's, your license was 12 PM until,
Closing time, yeah, that's correct. That's correct. I'm not sure procedurally exactly what you have to do in terms of licensing an ABCC. I just know what we have to do to present it to you, and it's supposed to be
actually
an
effective
automatic
tomorrow.
change.
Effective tomorrow. So.
Yeah, tomorrow. I think it's the 23rd, I think, is the
Yeah.
date, yeah.
Lorraine knows the procedure.
Oh.
Just-
You do have to sign, I actually have to say that. The store must complete a change of hours application and have their board accept it, which Stan Hills did, and submitted the paperwork. Upon receipt of the request, the local licensing authority, is Selectmen, would approve it, and you have to sign a Form 43, which I have for your signature for tonight. And then we forward that to the ABCC and grant Sand Hills, if you choose, a new license with the updated times, as Tony mentioned.
Okay. All right, so that's that with respect to
So we'll
the
have to
Sunday
vote
sale, so we'll vote that.
You don't need to vote.
Or we don't have to, but at least we're aware of it. Now, the other issue is then the extension of 45 days from the current time period of November 15th until January 15th, so that they will have a effective seasonal license commencing on April of the new year 15th through the following year, January 15th. The only question I had was, to be candid with you, was the lockage and storage, if you're going to be storing the alcohol for those periods of time? How are you gonna keep
The
those?
beer will go back to the distributor. There'll be some wine that I'll put in a lockup in that stock room, in the back stock room. I keep Sean out there.
Off the shelf, okay.
It's a secured area out there, so,
That was the only question I had.
okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Marty?
Well, I started looking at this on Friday, and my biggest concern was, obviously, being a seasonal beer and wine license. I was looking at seasonal population and different things, and my initial thought was that it was going to hurt people who are not a seasonal business. But then, the more I started looking at it, a lot of the homes in your area have closed down. You're not going to really become a beer and wine destination, per se.
No.
It's going to be the people, as you're saying, that are going to go in there to buy other things that will be able to pick up beer and wine. So, with the population, taking quite a hit in your area, I would tend to go along with it, especially just for the 45 days, because I think, obviously, the incremental sales you're going to pick up on, the add-on sales, if you will, I think they're going to help. So I would be in favor of extending it.
Yeah, I mean, I was the lone no vote last time, and I had never been to the store before. I went down a couple weeks ago and looked at it, and just a couple observations. One, it's big, much bigger than I thought it was, just space-wise. The security cameras, you probably have maybe 6 or 8 cameras that give a good view of the whole store. And then, obviously, the technology for the license on it as well. It's a very neighborhood place. There were a ton of people walking around the area, and it seems like really a store for, the people that live there. People aren't really driving from, Ninet to get down there to buy beer. So,
No.
So I was pleased with all that sort of stuff. I think, the big thing for me is violations. And there haven't been any violations. If there is a violation, I know the whole board will feel very strongly about changing it. I think the season period is a little ridiculous, just because it's almost the full year anyways, but that's what the state said. So I don't have, I think it's a well-run operation with all the security stuff in place, so I'm not opposed to giving you an opportunity to extend it a little bit, and again, as long as there's no violations, I don't think there'll be a problem.
One more question from the board?
Tony made me think of it. Have you guys had any stings that you know of?
We did have one sting. We did find out about it. It was put on by the ABCC. We found out about it after, and we passed, no issues. And everything's been fine. It really hasn't been any, right after we did get the license, I spent a lot of time down there myself, because I thought, the kids, okay, they're getting the beer and wine, let's try it. And we really didn't run up against that at all. There was no chasing kids out. We didn't run into, the girls would know, my wife, Meg and Tammy, they would know better, but not a lot of kids coming in with fake IDs. We're not running up against that at all. There's been no issues with that whatsoever. So it's been really clean, not an issue, not a lot of trouble.
Any questions in the audience? All right, entertain a motion?
Move that the board grant the extension of their seasonal liquor license to January 15th, 2015.
To Sandhills General Store.
Just Sandhills General Store, I'm sorry.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Gentlemen, congratulations.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you. Moving on to our next agenda item, which is a public hearing at 7:15, which we're doing at actually 7:29. Kevin Cafferty, DPW Director. It's concerning National Grid with some poll petitions at Plan Number 173858575 Stockbridge Road, and also Plan Number 17554789, the intersection of Gannett Road and Ocean Avenue. Gentlemen, and sir, could you just state your name? I know you're from National Grid.
Good evening. My name is Jose Vasquez.
I think you've been here before, Mr.
Yes,
Vasquez. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you for taking the trip.
Not a problem.
So we're looking for a poll petition on Stockbridge Road, and the location on Stockbridge is where, Kevin, exactly? For the audience?
It's right on the bend at number, right by 175,
Okay.
pole number 25.
And is that replacing one, or is that actually putting it in another
One in the woods
location?
now, right?
Yeah, it's this one back here.
There's
What
one-
it is, yeah, there's one in the, I'm sorry to cut you off. There's one in the customer's property. So what we want to do is want to remove that one from the back of the customer's property, and then we'll relocate in it to help the angle, so you won't need to add another pole.
Is that in the, I assume it's in the public way, the
Yes.
layout of the road?
What
It's
they're
not
doing-
actually on the road, but it's in the layout of it, correct?
Correct. What they're doing actually on both of these is cleaning it up, because both of them are in the middle of people's yards.
Yeah.
They're taking them out of the yards and putting them back in the public way.
Where is this, it's not going into the sidewalk, is it, Kevin?
No,
No.
no.
So what's the closest street to this?
The closest street is Breeze Lane,
Beers Lane.
Bears Lane, sorry.
So it's past the sidewalk. The sidewalk
There isn't a
is not down
side-
that far.
There isn't a sidewalk in
Yeah,
that
it's
in
all
that area.
dirt patch, correct.
You know, it makes sense, especially if you live out there and having the poles. I would not want one of those on my property, no offense. But I'm like, you know, put it in the public way, and I'm sure the owners would be very happy about it.
And the poles they're replacing are in very bad condition. I mean, one of them is down to, I mean, it looks like a fence post. It's all worn away and looks in rough shape, so.
Any further questions on this poll petition?
Do you want to do individual motion, John?
Do you mind? I think you have to do them individually anyway, so do you mind?
Sure. Move to approve National Grid Plan number 173-85875 to relocate Stockbridge Road joint-owned pole number 25, 21 feet northeast of existing location in order to remove stub pole and backyard of house at number 175 Stockbridge Road and replace the streetlight at the curve when completing work.
Motion by Mr. O'Toole, seconded by Mr. Harris. Before I go into any discussion, anybody questions on this? No? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous. All right, one down. The next one, Kevin's on, off of Gannon on Ocean Ave.
Ocean Ave, yep.
Is this similar in that we're pulling it off private property?
It's similar,
or-
it's on private property, and they explained that to me. Originally, I wasn't too in favor of bringing something out to Ocean Ave, but we really don't have a choice at that location. It's on private property, and they do not have an easement to have the pole in the yard.
All right, Sean?
I just wondered if, rather than wait till after, is there anyone in the audience that, you know, that might know a little bit more about this than I do? It looks like. Yes.
I was going to ask that, too. Anybody here on this poll petition? Yes. Could you please state your name?
Right next door. Edwina Fargo, I'm at number 5 Ocean.
Okay.
It says number 8, but it's number 5.
Okay.
Is it right next
here.
to the new house that they're kind of remodeling? Second house there?
I'm number 5, right
Okay.
there.
Is it on your property?
No,
It's
but
on
it
the
will
neighbor.
be if you move it.
Oh,
Oh, so it's going on,
The plan is to move it out to the street on my side of the lot line, on the tree lawn, if you will.
I see what you're saying. It's still going to be,
so it'd be in front of your property.
It'll be in my eyesight, yes. And I have a few concerns about its location.
all right. Let me ask you this. What are the concerns first?
My concerns are, A, its location. It's, right now, it would, if it makes the proposed lot where it's going to be, there is, about 2 feet away, there's a fire hydrant. And my fear is that maneuverability will be impaired. There's also a 100-plus tree there, which I don't know if they'll have to take that down, but it'll affect my property aesthetically as well.
The only reason why I say is, we have a diagram up here as a part of our packet. It appears as though, clearly it's on your neighbor's property, is where it is
Right now,
presently, yeah.
yes.
By moving it into the public way, it is on public property, which is a benefit to your neighbor. I realize there's a potential negative for aesthetically. There appears to be, at least in this plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, 3 trees that are lined up where it is?
Yes.
And I think I assume the one you're referencing is the 100-year-old tree is probably the one that's closest to the road? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
All right. How many feet away from the tree? I mean, I guess it's still in the public way, though. You're going to be boring
I
down.
looked at it about 6 weeks ago, I think, or 4 weeks ago. The way I recall that, I thought they put it on the split where the 2 properties
Yes.
meet,
Yes.
so it'd be on the boundary, it wouldn't be in front of one person's house.
It's a couple feet
It's a
from the
little bit.
hydrant, but yeah.
And
Sure.
Kevin, have you met with this resident that's speaking now? Have you,
No,
out
I
in
have
the
not.
field?
I have not. We did, I knocked on a couple doors out there. I think I wound up talking to your neighbor. I don't think I spoke to you when we went out and took a look at it.
Is this-
Nobody might have been home.
The Scott's old house? Okay.
Maybe I asked you, and maybe you gave it, and I apologize. My head is kind of wrapped around some things here. Did you give us your name and your address? I think you said...
Fargo.
Okay. Thank you.
I just-
Number 5.
Why don't, can we do
Is there
this?
flexibility, Kevin? I mean,
Right.
can you work with her and see if you can move 3, 4 feet one way or the other?
Is that
It's
possible?
up to these guys.
The reason being, the angle, there's a primary going through the backyard, like across the street. So we need to keep the straight angle so that pole won't fall into the neighbors across the street's property. Basically, over time, the primary will pull the pole down. That
So
was
we have wires going through people's backyards?
Yes. Existing
It's
on
along
Ocean
the
Ave.
lot line right now.
Right.
Wires go through, I mean, they've been there for 75 plus
Right.
years. My question is, can it be moved to the other side of the fire hydrant to save that tree and everything else?
I think that's what Tony's, I think if Kevin goes out and meets with you, I'd like to think that you guys could reach a compromise that would work with National Grid, and if,
Tell you what, how about this? Could you at least maybe have an opportunity the next 2 weeks before our next meeting to go out and talk and take a look at it? Is that a possibility? All right. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Just so, because, I mean, if not, just to see.
Because it's not straight now. I mean,
Right.
we're moving it, it's definitely on their property, and we're moving it to the, to the property line, so we're moving it at least a little bit north.
I mean, here's the reason why I'm looking at it, okay? It's going to go in the public way. Unfortunately, if it goes into your area, your visual, there's not much this board can do because it's a public benefit. However, if there is something that they can place it in a better position, that's going to be, shall we say, beneficial not just to you, but your neighbor, and it fits, you know what, it makes sense to kind of walk out and talk about it. If not, then we're going to have to come back and vote it up. But I just think at this point, looking at the hydrant, doesn't make sense to have it too close to the hydrant, if they can move it one way or the other. I think that would make sense.
And I did speak to Fire on it. Fire said the distance was acceptable for them to manage the hydrant. It wasn't going to interfere with that, and I believe Chief Judge signed off on that.
All right,
One of
do
the
you-
last things he's done.
So between now and, we'll put it on our agenda, the next meeting, which is going to be November 4th, Election Day, I might add. But if you could, Kevin, can you talk to Ms.
Not a problem.
Fargo and the neighbor? Can you get in touch with your neighbor, Ms. Fargo?
I'd rather not.
Okay.
You've sent letters to all the neighbors.
Okay.
Also.
So just so you know, if you reschedule this, you cannot vote on it November 4th,
Why is that?
because it's a public hearing, and you can't hold a public hearing on Election Day.
Okay. So it'll have to be into it'll be,
So don't even have them come in.
yeah. We'll
November 18th.
put it on for the new board member to make a decision with us. How's that? All right? All right, so it's going to be continued for a month. 4 weeks, we'll have it back here, okay?
That impact you
And
guys,
you have
though?
an opportunity to speak with Kevin Cafferty, okay?
No, it'll just hold up the job, and I have to check.
Is
the
it gonna
status.
hold, is it gonna hold up some,
Well, the customer that's there now wanted it relocated, so it'll hold up that job, so I mean, but.
You know what, not that I have an issue, it's just, I realize they're going to get it off their property, just going to have to hold up for a little bit, just so
Yeah,
we
it's
can
a
figure
benefit
out.
to
We're just
them
going to try
at the
to,
end,
yeah, we're just going to try to figure out if there's a better location to place it.
Yeah, not a problem, yeah, I respect.
Yes.
customers.
The entire front, on the other side of their driveway is free and clear. I don't understand why it has to go where it's slotted to go.
Well, just so you know, it's not that we don't want them to have the bearing of the pole, it's for the angle of the wires.
Right.
Usually if the wires come this way, I know.
Mine committed a 45.
Ms. Fargo, you know what, we're not going to get into a dialogue here. The long and short of it is this, we've got 4 weeks to take a look at it. It's going to come back in front of us. Please address it with Kevin Cafferty. Mr. Vasquez, I'm not sure if you're going to be a participant in this, I assume you are to some degree, so that you folks can maybe come to a compromise and find a better location than where it's presently being proposed. Otherwise, it's going to come back to us, and we're going to have to vote that up, okay?
Not a problem.
It'd be beneficial if we could have some kind of like consensus and talk about it to try to see if there's a better placement for it, okay? All right, Mr. Vasquez, Ms. Cafferty, Ms. Fargo, thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next agenda item.
Thank you.
Right now, we're going to be looking at a 720, which happens to be 739, a discussion vote on the train canopy roof restoration award contract.
Yeah, make sure you give them your number, Ms. Fargo. Yep.
I just want to grab your number, you can give it to Sean, and we'll make contact with you and meet you up there.
Sorry, Kevin, you're still up. We're on the...
No problem at all.
Terrain canopy, roof restoration. What's going on in the canopy in North Situate? It's been going on and on and on. I see that there are pieces of steel that now it's at the transfer station. It looks like they've taken down behind the old train station in North Situate, the canopy, but now they've added on the new section that they're going to keep as part of the CPC funding for preserving it, but it's not complete. What's happening?
It's not complete. It's a CPC project that we have got a little more involved in, and we're going to push this along to make things happen. What we've done is we put a bid package together to go out for the roof of this canopy system. Right now, if anybody was over there this weekend, Saturday, they started sandblasting and painting it. They didn't get too far because it was windy and it started raining, so it's kind of a bad time to be painting. They're going to be out there over the next couple of weekends. One of the reasons we put this out on the weekend is because we don't want the trains going by. They do a tent system to do it, and
Well, that's changing.
that's why we're trying to get everything done we can. So that's ongoing. They, as part of the plan that they had, they removed a couple of the sections of the canopy itself, the metal canopy itself, that were in poor condition, and we were going to, the idea was to scrap it, but I kind of thought we might be able to use those sometime in the future at a park. It might be nice to make a canopy, so we put them in storage at the transfer station. So somebody saw it, I was hoarding them, hopefully we could use them somewhere down the road.
On that point, I just want to say, I think that's a great idea. You know, these, an old section, who knows what's going to happen in the future. I know that there are two horse wells, if they are. One's in Greenbush, the other's down across from the old library that happens to be flower planters that have been used, could have been destroyed, but they're probably from the turn of the century, of the 19th century. So, great idea, hold on to it, see if we can use it. If not, you can always sell it.
Yeah, we were going to scrap it, but I didn't want to just send it to scrappers. It could be used for something in the future. So, that being said, we put a bid package together to put the roof on and get the tiles back on that section, and these are the results of the bid. We had two bidders. A lot of bidders were nervous about bidding this due to the proximity of the tracks. It was a prevailing wage job, and our low bid was from Eagle Rivet Roofing Services for $89,000. That's what we were interested in awarding, not the ad alternate, and that would get the roof and get the structure hopefully looking a little more like a structure.
What's the ad alternate?
Yeah, that's just...
The ad alternate, underneath, there's a ceiling that goes on underneath. It's a beadboard ceiling that goes there, and there's also a little bit of electrical work that goes in, but they're reaching the limit of what they have on their cap for the CPC funds, and I think it'd put us a little too close to the cap if we did that also at this time.
What is the cap? Do you know the number?
I think it was $150,000 or $160,000. They've already spent money on site work and the painting and everything else. I don't have the full budget on me, in front of me.
Sean, question?
No, I just went by and saw the structure up, and it's just really the skin. And will it be tile, or is it going to be copper,
Glad to see it
Kevin?
happen.
Well, it's not going to be copper because people were stealing the copper off of it before. So what they're going to do is, we took the old tiles, we saved them down the highway barn. There's enough old tiles to put back and restore it to the way it was. We're painting it. We're sandblasting it all, and then we're painting it with like a two-part epoxy paint that's very expensive. But that's going to preserve it and hopefully hold the steel in, great shape for a long time. But we did skip the copper. We didn't have the funds for the copper, and we're a little worried about it getting stolen again.
Right. That's it.
Sounds good to me. Anybody else? Tony?
Nope, it's under the budget, so.
All right, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Will the Board of Selectmen vote to award the contract for roofing construction services to Eagle Rivet Roofing Services of Tewksbury, Mass. for
Second.
$89,000.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by Mr. Harris. Discussion. Anybody have any questions out there? Seeing no hands, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Kevin, thank you.
Sewer tie-in.
All right, let's move on to the next agenda, which is a 7:25 discussion vote, sewer tie-in and request. Kevin Cafferty, DPW Director, and Attorney Michael Hayes. Good evening again. Thank you for coming back. This was a discussion that we started 2 weeks ago about a sewer tie-in, and we're back again. So,
Off of Front Street, 3 properties.
yeah. for those people who are here and those people who may be on TV, this relates to a sewer tie-in off of Front Street. The exact location is actually across from TK O'Malley's. There's a street that's separated by the two parking lots. It's called Morton Place. It's an old road, but it's a private road or a private way, I think. And the properties that are looking to get tied in are up behind that street, if you will, or that place. Mr. Hayes, Attorney Hayes, do you have anything else further you want to add?
Well, I think we discussed it at length last time, and the only thing I would say tonight, John, is that Morton Place, it's not a private road, it's a driveway, it's a right-of-way, and again, Bob Morrissey, who is away right now and couldn't be here, owns the front property and the two homes behind it, and his position is that the connection of existing homes on an already sewered street, Front Street, that has not been previously connected, is a legitimate request for the board. He is certainly hopeful that you and your capacity as sewer commissioners will agree.
Here's my predicament, okay? I didn't get a chance to go and check to see how old Morton Place is. My understanding is that it's a road that goes back many, or way, I'll call it a way or a place, goes back many years. That's the reason why I said like a private road. I recognize that can create a rub because obviously under the rules that we have implemented, that if the sewage goes in the road in front of you, you have a driveway, you can connect, which is kind of difficult because if it's considered a road, even though it's privately owned, it doesn't go in front in order to connect to these homes. That's where I'm coming from. That's my problem. The only thing that I have for Mr. Morrissey is that I know that we as a board are going to be addressing a potential sewer tie-in in the future. And the question is, where? My understanding, the next phase are the tree streets. It's not a discussion we're having for tonight, but I know that it's going to be a discussion in the near future. I personally think that this area needs to be cleaned up with any future expansion in this area, whether it's 5 streets up or whatnot, it should be encompassed. There are other areas in town, I don't know of them up firsthand. I did know of one, but it was just dealt with. Actually, I know of another area in town that if they've been missed, they should be included. And so that's why my feeling on this is, although he's not intending to do anything in the near future, I'd like to consider this as a part of the future expansion if it is going to happen. The downside is that if it doesn't happen in that area, he's not getting it at this point. However, it doesn't deter him from coming back to the sewer commissioners, this board, to ask that relief. I might have a different opinion on it if it doesn't happen. I don't know. But that's just my position on it.
One thing I was going to mention also is that the Bob's building on 189 Front Street, to the south of it is Finn Doyle's old insurance agency.
Yep.
Finn has sold that property, but that property originally was a street address of Morton Place.
Really?
And, in order to get sued, he changed it to Front Street.
Now historically, that goes back because originally there was the Dunbar house that used to be in the parking lot across from TK's. However, Dunbar was built around 1800, torn down, but Vin Doyle's house would have been one of the original buildings on it, because as you can see from the layout, it was. But clearly it was renumbered to Morton Place at some point, I assume.
And one of the things Bob would be certainly happy to do is those two houses is to request a change to 189A and B, Front Street. And again, he's just anxious to get the property improved and to pay for it. And he feels quite strongly that, there have been enough tie-ins allowed that are analogous to this, that he would hope to be treated the same. And he's concerned about, as we move forward over for years with the proving grounds and other aspects that the ability may end, and that is his other concern.
Thank you. Anybody
I'll go
from
last,
John
if
or Marty? Any questions? Tony?
No, I mean, from the write-up that we got, I just think it'd be going against the rules and the guidelines and the policy that we have now. And I have nothing against the guy getting sewer, other than the can of worms that it's gonna open for a bunch of other people. And I think John has a good solution to just wait for the next expansion and incorporate that street into that expansion. I can't think of a better solution.
John?
If he were to do it Title V and it would have failed, he's not selling the property, so he's not about to do it, but if he did and it failed, he could take a spaghetti line and run one spaghetti line down and tie those in. This is an opportunity where he's gonna do it correctly. I, look at it a little different. These, like I said at the last meeting, I haven't changed my mind, these homes have been there for a long time. We're seeing homes being built, getting tied right in. And I agree with Mr. Hayes that, the day may come when Mr. Morrissey cannot tie in, we might be at capacity. I just look at it a little different. I suppose they could have changed the addresses a while ago and they would be tied in. Bob said that he would put a main in to do it correctly. And I just have one other question. Can these lots be subdivided? Could more homes be added to this?
No. It's not the two lots where each houses aren't big enough.
They're non-conforming, they're small lots, if I'm not mistaken, small homes. I just think this should be tied in, should have been tied in, not at the town's expense, but, so if Mike would have changed some deeds and do some, changing some addresses a few years ago, we would have tied it in. Probably wouldn't have even thought twice, right, Kevin? If there were addresses, like where the office is, what he referred to as Vin Doyle's office.
My only concern on that, if they just changed the addresses, they still wouldn't have the frontage on Front Street. Unless they split that way and
Right.
made it a driveway
Right.
in half of the, they'd have to do a Form A and tie the two
Right.
properties in as one. They'd have to play around with the property
And I
lines.
think if, Bob spent enough money with Mike, he could get that done as an attorney, So,
There's no doubt.
I don't know, I
people-
just look at it a little different than you guys. That's
And
all.
I just, the reason, the other issue that I neglected to say is that, and again, if there is an urgent need for it, total failure, we had to go through that. Because I feel, just from my position, I feel like we're putting ourselves in a position where now people could come in regardless of whether you have an urgent need for it, for a spaghetti line. And somebody else could say, well, why can't I? The example I had was some homes were not tied in down near Peggotty Beach. And they might be able to say, hey, why shouldn't I be able to tie in right now? And I'm like, well, I feel like if some perception is that we've gone down a slippery road, I think this would set the precedent that we've gone even much further. And that's why I say if there's some urgent need, I would be, okay, hard-pressed, providing the Board of Health chimed in and gave me that, number one. And number two, I will say, in the future, I think he should be included in any expansion. We can take a look at that. But anyway, that's just mine. I do like the proactive approach, though. I think that's at least he's willing to suggest I'll do this and on
Well, he
my
wants to
dime.
pave the road. That was it.
Right, that was the reason.
The driveway is in poor condition, and he wants to repair it and bring it closer to a safe and entrance to those two homes, so, actually, three.
All
And
right.
again, he will respect your decision, obviously, and
Appreciate that.
feels that he's, in his mind, he meets the criteria, but again, respects each of your positions.
I forgot to ask, any questions? Anybody have any in the audience? I tend not to do that, and I don't mean to ignore the audience. In that case, then, gentlemen, how do you want to proceed?
I'll make a motion, but I don't know if it'll fly, so.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm not going to bother, because I don't think I have a second, so.
I think the chair can second, right? I'm not going to let a motion die on the table.
I'll second.
All right.
Oh, I move that the board vote to tie in the two properties on Morton Place, number 18 and 23.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Toole. Just a point of discussion. I appreciate it. My feeling on any motions, when a board member makes it, is that it should be seconded, so at least to have a discussion and have it voted up. So wherever a vote goes, it goes. All those in
I have
favor?
one quick question. You said the two properties, is the first one isn't tied in, is it?
There's three altogether where his offices is
First one
tied
is.
in,
His office
okay?
is tied in.
These
So
are,
that first one is tied in.
Tied
This
in.
one's
These are
tied
two.
in, these two are not.
they're two small homes. If they're one or two bedroom, I've never been inside them.
on the left-hand side, one's on the right, but the office is tied in. Any further questions?
Nope.
All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those who are not in favor signify by saying nay. Nay?
Nay.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
But thank you, and tell Mr. Morris I appreciate for at least giving us an additional time to review it. All right, moving on to, Kevin, thank you. Moving on to a 7:30 discussion vote. It's a joint planning board meeting with the Board of Selectmen for an alternate member appointments. And with us, we have our planning board members. Mr. Vogel, Mr. Green, is Mr. Limbacher here? Mr. Limbacher, the chairman's here. Mr. Taylor, gentlemen, why don't you come on up, and who am I missing? Anybody else? Oh, come on up, sorry about that.
Biggest guy in the room.
Standing, I'm looking to the left and looking to the right without looking directly in front.
Just want me to get up here where I get shot. For the boss.
Okay. I'll sit back here. All right.
There you go. You got it.
Here, Mr. Chairman, sit over here so you
No,
can talk to the mic.
I'm down. He's already down.
Before we get started, I noticed that one of your board members is being accompanied by somebody, and I thought maybe the gentleman would like to introduce who's accompanying him to see this meeting. I'm sure it's probably her first.
Sure it is. She's seen it on TV. Everyone, this is my daughter, Tess Green, over here. You heard I was going.
Hi,
She
Tess.
knows Thursday nights is my night, and she was wondering why I wasn't sitting up there, and I told her, tonight's your night, and,
Can we make
yeah.
sure we get Ms. Green on TV? All right, very good. All right. So, gentlemen, let's get started. Do we understand that we're here for a joint vote of a prospective alternate member for the alternate position that's been made vacant as a result of Mr. Green's election this year? Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. We were very, very fortunate. We had two candidates, and after we listened to both, we ended up picking Ann Burbine. Ann's familiar, is well known to most members of the board, your board, and past member of the planning board, past chairman of the planning board. And we recommended her for the alternate position.
Well, that sounds good. That means that at least I know if she's on the alternate position, she won't be running against me in the future, I hope.
I just threw my signs away.
I think it'd be a great appointment. She's done certainly a lot on for the town, and she's done a lot in her capacity with the MAPC and also with other things, and certainly with planning in the town. Gentlemen, any comments? What are your thoughts?
Good choice.
Yep.
Well, then, I think we have to have is it a roll call vote, or just a joint vote, or an individual
Roll
vote?
call
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
You have to make a nomination and have that seconded and entertain any other nominations.
All right.
And
Nominate Ann Burbine as the alternate member for the planning board.
Second.
A motion, roll call vote by Mr.
Nominations need no second. Now, the chair will ask if there are any other nominations.
Are there any other nominations? Could say Ms. Green, but you're too young, I'm sorry.
Okay, now you're good.
All right, all those in favor of the nomination of Ann Burbine for the alternate position for the board, the planning board, signify by saying aye.
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 Roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call, sorry. I have to roll this out.
Okay, Mr. Dennehy,
Yes, aye.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Vignani,
Yes.
Mr. O'Toole,
Yes.
Mr. Limbacher.
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Wholeheartedly, yes.
Mr. Vogel.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Sorry, Tess, you can't vote.
Roll call vote is unanimous. Congratulations, Ann. Welcome back.
I never left.
All right, I think that's it, gentlemen.
Back on schedule.
Thank you, guys.
Back on schedule. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it. And thank you, Tess, for coming. All right. We're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a discussion vote of the town meeting warrant.
Have this in your tablet, but I had to add one agenda item.
Oh, thank you.
So the tabulation is just a little different.
I have two. Tricia, if someone in the audience wants one?
So, I don't know, John, how do you want to go through these? We did discuss them after you go through them and vote them. You need to assign them.
Assign them. So we got to vote them, and then why don't we vote them, I mean, we discussed them, we can do that, and then assign them after that? For, the assignment is that we're going to be assigning as to who's going to present it.
So, there's no additions to what we went through last week, except for the grant that I just spoke of earlier, half loan, half grant. Even though we received no paperwork on it, it's on the warrant to authorize the treasurer to borrow for the loan if we go forward. The town of Marshfield's having a special town meeting October 27th, and as I mentioned, they got a similar award, and they have it on their warrant as well. So that is at the end of the warrant. It becomes a new 15, and the petition article is now 16.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, so we went through this before. That's the board's pleasure. You want to go back over them again, or
We can go
these are
through
going to, what's it? I thought we did we?
Well, I discussed all of them at our last.
So why don't we go
meeting.
through-
The background information.
Let's go through it so everybody here can hear it, and anybody on TV can also hear it. The first and foremost, don't forget, it's going to be a special town meeting on November 13th, 2014, 7 o'clock at the high school gymnasium. The first article is to see if the town will vote to hear or act upon any reports of town officers or committees, or take any other action relative thereto. That's the first article. Tricia, what exactly are we doing, asking town reports and committees?
That's an opportunity for the board to update the membership, or technically any board and committee, on news to the town. So we saw this as an opportunity to update folks on the public safety and school project that will be at a subsequent town meeting very shortly after that town meeting.
Okay, which...
So is this similar to when we get up before the annual town meeting and give our State of the Nation type thing?
Yes, but for this particular case, it will be for the master plan, we think.
Good.
We'll have school and town folks speak to it.
I'm happy to take that article, if that's okay with the board. All right, I'll take Article 1.
Are we signing it?
We are.
Might as well
Just
save the
did.
stuff.
I just took it. Now, now this is my feeling on it, gentlemen. When somebody gets up there, instead of being like whack-a-moles, going up and sitting down, that we take them in blocks. That's just up to me. I'd be happy to take probably the first 4 articles or first 3 articles, whatever we want. But Article 2 is to see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $772.03, or a greater or lesser sum for the purpose of paying fiscal year 2014 and 2013 unpaid bills, or take any other action relative thereto. Basically, there's some bills that were not paid at the time, so we need to pay them. And so that's why we need to, that came in after the close of the budget. So that's what that article is. I'm happy to take that one since I'm already up for Article 1. How's that?
Sounds good.
And Article 3, see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $104,000 or a greater or lesser sum for the purpose of balancing the fiscal year budget 2015 pursuant to Article 6 of the April 14th, 2014 annual town meeting warrant, or take any other action relative thereto. So we are going to be transferring funds to ensure that we have balanced our budget in that set amount. Again, I'm happy to take that article.
Just a couple questions on that. There was 2, one for the town accountant and one for the Board of Health, and we didn't know where's that funds coming from? Is that free cash, or is that?
Yeah, we'll find another interdepartmental transfer. It has to be in the motion.
Okay, so the only one for free cash, though, is the election expense.
That is correct. The rest will be interdepartmental.
All right. So I will take that article unless somebody wants to jump up. Okay. How many articles do we have here? We've got a total of,
One other question, on the wastewater for
16.
$70,000, is that the delta between the consultant fee and what we had in the budget for the position?
No, it's the expense, there's a deficit in technical services because there's a consultant, and we're transferring that 70 out of the salary line item.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm happy to give the new member who comes on a lot more of these articles, gentlemen, too.
I
I
was
might
just
add.
thinking, John, I mean,
That's what we did to you, didn't we?
yes.
Article 4, to see if the town will vote to appropriate,
Are you taking that one, Joe?
what's it? I'm taking that one,
Number
okay.
3. yeah.
Article
So you
4.
accept the 3 easy ones?
I take the
Good
3
job.
easy ones.
Good job.
To see if the town will vote to appropriate from available sums in the Treasury the sum of $66,238 or a greater or lesser sum for the purpose of paying the town's required 25% cash match portion of funds to be received from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, otherwise known as FEMA, for road work repair associated with the Hurricane Sandy on Glades Road, Oceanside Ave, and Central Ave, or take any other action relative thereto. In essence, these are matching funds that we need to appropriate in order to pay for the repairs of said roads I just mentioned, and this is our 25% portion. Who wants that one?
I'll take that
Why
one.
don't you do, you're doing 4.
I'll do 4,
You
that's
wanna
fine.
take
I mean, no,
1 through 4?
well, there may be one later that you want
Oh,
to
that's fine. Okay, so who wants to do 4?
I'll take 4.
I think
do. Where are we getting that money?
free
Is that from?
cash, that's probably going to be free.
It's free cash?
Yeah.
So I'll take-
Not from the,
I'd rather not touch capital stabilization, although there's money there.
well, it's also money in the seawall. It's not seawall, that's roads, right?
Yeah, it's roads.
Free cash.
Okay. Moving on to Article 5, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds of the Treasury the sum of $98,000 or a greater or lesser sum for the purpose of fully funding the boiler replacement at the town hall and for the purchase of 2 hybrid vehicles as part of the town's receipt of funds from the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs Green Communities Program, or take any other action relative thereto.
I'll take that as well. Again, John, like you said, why jump up and down, so.
So, if we can just explain this, it's $98,000.
Some of it's.
Some of it is from the ESCO savings, but that's not really, did we get a check from ESCO?
Yes.
It's not the ESCO savings, it's the actual energy rebates we receive from National Grid, which we've gotten over 130,000 of so far. So like when you put in your windows and you file with NSTAR or National Grid, they send you this lovely check in the mail.
So that's rebates, but not necessarily savings on efficiency?
No, their savings are the savings that we projected when we pitched to do the original appropriation. This is over and above.
So these are rebates that we're getting for
Because we're
putting in
being
windows
more
or something?
energy efficient.
And then the other money was, how much money did we get for the green initiative? 28,
What do you mean, for the grant itself? For the,
the green, you said the other thing was the green community?
It says the Green Community Program and the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. So the Environmental Affairs, are they the ones who are paying for the electric cards or the charging
Charging
stations?
station.
So we need to have the cars in order to get the charging
get two.
stations. Gotcha.
2 charging stations.
And all of that is coming from the rebates?
Yep.
Or some of it coming from the green?
Well, no, we were able to, our green communities, we subsidized the ESCO work with, so the first one was 168, the last one was 117, so it's just more in keeping with the energy efficiencies under that.
So it's all coming from the rebates for ESCO?
Yep. And the new boiler is finally working, and we had heat on in the building for the first time today. It was a little nippy here the past week, but,
Think of the
so
money we're
new
saving.
boiler- And the new boiler is portable, so if we eventually go to Gates or something like that, it's portable. Everything we're doing in these buildings now, to the greatest extent possible, including the police and fire stations, we're making portable.
And what kind of cars are they? Are they,
They're, the water department has one now, they're little, what is it?
Saw them.
It's a Spark, I
Yeah.
think it's called.
Appropriate name.
so it's just a little,
Yeah, and we need some fleet vehicles, we're having some challenges here with some of the vehicles.
and do we know yet if the public can just hook up to these
So
outlets?
there's going to be one at, we believe, the North Scituate parking lot for the public, and then another one probably proximate here somewhere. so we can use the town vehicles with it.
Right?
All right, Article 6, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $410,000 or a greater or lesser sum for the purpose of retiring the debt for the cap on the landfill and construction of the bulky waste handling area located in the driftway, or to take any other action relative thereto. So obviously, we're going to pay off the debt in the transfer station, and the money's coming from where?
Pay down.
Free cash.
Free cash, okay.
It doesn't pay it off completely, does it?
It does. Rather than, we're refunding two bonds, the March 2005 and the September 2005.
All right.
It would pay off the bulky waste area and the landfill capping the remaining years that would be on that bond, rather than reissue it.
Okay.
So that helps us in two places, because it reduces that debt, and it gives us $100,000 more. It's in the financial forecast, Tony, that we back out $100,000 every year.
Right.
Given our debt and everything, it will be good to have that extra cash in the
So is it two different
operating.
things? I know the landfill,
There's two different things. The larger portion, like $330,000 of it is the landfill capping, and then the small portion, about $60,000, is the bulky waste handling.
That whole gas recovery thing and all of that, that was the flame, that's all part of the capping.
right, but that's not the bulky waste.
No, it's got nothing to do with it.
It's separate.
So is that an enterprise fund debt, though?
It is, but right now the general fund is subsidizing, is contributing towards that debt every year.
I know for the
$100,000.
landfill, but for the bulky waste also?
Yes, because it always part of that
Oh,
project.
it was one.
The only other piece of debt that the transfer station has is for a piece of equipment that's more contemporary.
Good, so that'll make it go away, and we have the money.
Who wants that
I'll
article?
take that, too. That'll give me the second three, I guess. 5 and 6, anyway.
Are you doing 4, or is John?
I'm doing 4, 5,
Okay.
and 6 to right now, anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Roads, what is it, boiler and trash. There you go, Marty.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Article 7, to see if the town will vote to transfer from available funds in the Treasury the sum of $400,000 or a greater or lesser sum in the Capital Stabilization Fund for the purpose of allocating reserves for future capital and/or debt service, or to take any other action relative thereto. All right. Tricia or Nancy, want to explain that, what we're doing to the public?
So what this article does is it earmarks funds that I believe we have available for future capital. And given the town's free cash position right now, I believe the $400,000 to allocate that into capital stabilization now is prudent. It's not for a specific project, but as we know, we have the FEMA reimbursements now starting to come in. We need a 25% cash reimbursement. If the debt, we hope, is approved for these school and safety projects in January, then our capital ongoing 5-year rolling plan is going to be challenged. So given that we are in a good position heading into FY16 and for the remainder of FY15, I think it would make good sense to do this into capital stabilization, and the amount I'm quite comfortable with. The alternative to that is not to put it into capital stabilization and put it into OPEB. Nancy and I have been working very closely with the financial advisor because of the excellent interest rates we've got and Pam's hard work as well. We want to find out what we can do to get a AAA rating maybe when we issue all this debt. It's very unlikely probably, but the main factor we've decided, and we got this from our financial advisor, is that we need a more robust allocation to OPEB other than the 2% annually that we're doing of the retirement center assessment. So, that's what's before the board.
How much did we do last year?
Into OPEB?
No, into capital stabilization?
I would say on the order of 350,000 maybe.
Yeah, because we put money in it.
We put, with the extra local aid, yep.
So the benefit of putting in this is we have more control of it. Otherwise, if we put in OPEB, then it's gone.
Well, you could
Well,
take it out.
Yeah.
It'd be hard, yeah.
It's all liquid if, we should have a terrible circumstance. But again, or you could split the baby and create another warrant article or whatever.
We have capital needs, we have big projects that are coming down. This makes sense. Sean, you want me to do the next three, and you do the other, the ones at the
Doesn't-
back?
It doesn't matter to me at all, whatever,
All right, I'll do this one.
sure.
Tony's got this one, 7. 8, to see if the town will vote to rescind the balances of the loans authorized and unissued totaling $786,578.
This is housekeeping. We do this every town meeting we can. It clears up the debt that we're never going to issue and helps,
projects are
again,
done.
we're trying to really be as pretty as possible for the bond rating agencies next year.
So all of these things came in under.
Yep.
I'll do that one.
And then 9 is to see if the town will vote to accept Massachusetts General Law 41, also 41B, capital B, relative to the direct deposit of employee paychecks or take any other action relative thereto. So you have to implement this law, accept it at town meeting in order to have direct deposit for employee checks?
Well,
It's kind of the card after the horse.
yeah.
Gotcha.
I'll do that.
Moving on to Article 10, to see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute and deliver a release of easements to the Appleton Field, so-called, described in a deed from William L. Litchfield to L.W. Carter, dated October 26, 1914, recorded with the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds in Book 1192, page 519, and shown as dotted lines on a court plan number 5122, capital A, filed with the said registry and/or in any relocated location on the subject property, or take any relative action, or take any action relative thereto.
Is this a big deal? This is what Frank came in for? It's just a,
Totally
to try to get
housekeeping.
this
The
done.
easement should have been extinguished when we voted to do it at town meeting last year, and it didn't, so this is just correcting that.
Because it was part of.
It was
the
part of the,
purchase and
yeah,
sale,
it
is
was
what we
never
agreed
in
to.
dispute.
Who wants this?
Sean?
Tony, I'll start now if you want, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take it.
All right.
Article 12 we'll do later, John.
I'll do Article 11 next, which is to see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to exchange a portion of town-owned land at 169 Jericho Road for an adjacent parcel at said location owned by William Dolan, trustee of the 169 Jericho Road Realty Trust, or take any action relative thereto. I know about this. In essence, when you go down the end of Jericho Road, and you take a right onto Turner, there's a public parking lot. There's a little cottage, literally, that's right there on the end with a little green space. What happened, in essence, is by doing this, we're swapping basically a triangular piece with another triangular piece. In essence, it's going to square out the parking lot. The parking lot happens to be actually on a portion of their property, and vice versa, a portion, what they think is their property, happens to be on the town property. So it's just basically squaring it off.
John's exactly right.
Who wants that article? Sean?
Yep.
Why don't you do it, yeah.
I'm happy to, if you want. All right, moving on to Article 12. I'm going to skip Article 12 at this point. Let's go on to Article 13, to see if the town will vote to amend its general bylaws, Section 2140, quote, "time of meeting," and to quote, by striking the first paragraph, quote, "The annual meeting shall be held on the second Monday in April, and further sessions of said meeting as required to complete action on matters covered by the warrant thereof shall be held on succeeding Monday and Wednesdays, legal holidays excepted," and replace it with, quote, "The annual meeting shall be held on the second Monday in April, and further sessions of said meeting as required to complete action on matters covered by the warrant thereof shall be held on any other day that is in the best interest of the town business of the town, whenever the needs of the town require, or take any other action relative thereto." In essence, if we have a town meeting, annual town meeting, on a Monday, we cannot continue it to a Tuesday night. We have to wait to the following Wednesday. And so therefore, this change in bylaw, general bylaw, enables us to have it in essence the next day without having to wait for the following Wednesday, correct?
Yes, and this article is at the request of the town clerk after we discovered that when we went to second night last year, we really couldn't do it the second night.
So now that's done and over, we're in violation of it. All right. So, but it makes it valid. There's no doubt about what was voted. Yeah, generally, bylaws are not done during special town meetings. I think this is innocuous, that it's enough that we can put on, and I think people would be fine with it.
And what'll set you up, in case you do go 2 nights at the annual in April, you'll have this flexibility now.
be funny if this was at the annual, and it was later, and we had to postpone and continue it and tell people you have to come in
We
on
stopped on
Wednesday.
this one.
And this is the reason why we stopped on it, but,
We stopped on 11.
all right, who wants that who wants that article?
Doesn't matter, I'll take it. I'm up there.
So you're on 13, Sean?
Sure.
All right. Moving on to the Article 14, to see if the town will vote to amend its general bylaws, Section 2110, quote, "Manner of calling the meeting," end quote, by striking the word 15 in the first sentence, third line, and inserting the word 14 in Section 2140, quote, "the time of meeting," end quote, by striking the word, quote, 15 in the second paragraph, last sentence, and inserting the word 14, both quoted, or take any other action relative thereto. So in essence, you're trying to shorten the time frame from 15 days to 14 days, and the reason for it is that, and I forgot you told me, but...
Statute. So let me just give you an example. You have to vote the warrant for the December 3rd special town meeting at your next meeting. And that is because the 15th day is November 18th, which is your next meeting, but you are not meeting to the evening. If it was what the state statute requires, which is 14 days, you would have to the 18th to post this warrant. In 3 different instances, doing the posting and the voting for the board for these town meetings, you have gone 3 extra days because the 14th day was on a Monday, and you had to go to the previous Friday. So it has really jammed us up tremendously, so this will be a huge help. And why it was 15 when the statute is 14 is really, I've never seen it in all my years, so it's going to be very helpful to the town.
So if we met in the morning, we'd be all set.
If you met in the
Tuesday
morning, you'd
mornings.
be all set, but I don't think you want to, so.
All right.
I love that one, John, that one.
And again, to echo what John said, we really don't like to do general bylaws, but in these particular instances, they'll help our annual town meeting, and it takes 90 days for the Attorney General to review and approve bylaw changes.
Okay. All right, Marty, you've got Article 14. 15, Article 15, to see if the town will vote to authorize the treasurer to borrow, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, or any other applicable law, a sum of money in the form of a low-interest loan from the Commonwealth's Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs Dam and Seawall Loan Fund to fund the replacement of a portion of Oceanside Avenue, approximately 760 linear feet, or take any other action relative thereto. I'm happy to take that article.
So this has to do with the grant.
That's what I spoke of earlier this evening, yes.
And then the final article, we'll get back to the one I skipped, 12. I'm not sure if we're going to do it this moment, or
you
we
can
are.
do it
Okay,
after
then
you
we'll do
do
it after we do this.
16, yeah.
Is Article 16, to mandate the town of Scituate by, now this is a petition, too, to mandate the town of Scituate by the Board of Selectmen. Let me restate that again. To mandate that the town of Scituate, by its Board of Selectmen, will take any and all appropriate steps or actions needed to sell in an open market the property known as, quote, Pier 44, end quote, located at 44 Jericho Road, Scituate, Massachusetts. It shall be sold for the its fair market value as defined by the Superior Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and as reported by 2 independent, quote, qualified and licensed real estate appraisers, neither of which appraisers have performed any work for the town of Scituate or take any other action relative thereto. That's the citizen petition. We don't need to speak on that, they do. Or do we? We do have somebody that...
Did invite the petitioner to attend the meeting this evening, and he informed Lorraine he could not attend.
Good. Well, that's too bad. I'd like to know more about it.
Will be attending, I believe, the advisory committee meeting Thursday night, however.
All right.
What is the petitioner's name? Do you know who?
Dennis White, Lorraine? The
Dennis
petitioner,
White?
lead petitioner's name? Yeah, Richard Dennis. I can
Richard
get it.
Dennis.
All right, we'll figure it out.
No problem.
But we have to give an opinion on it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I can give it to you in a minute, but.
All right. So, do you want that one?
Sure.
I'd say give it to the newbie.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
Don't know next time.
It's called...
Well, if we discuss it, I mean, I think it's a non-binding article.
Right.
They want us to sell a piece of property that's very useful to the town.
They can't,
They haven't given us any...
restricted on
right.
it anyways.
They can't give us any rationale why they want to do it, so it's, it doesn't...
All right. Now I'm going to move back to the article that we skipped over, Article 12.
It's Richard Dennis is the lead petitioner. Richard Dennis lives on the Driftway.
All right. Having said that, I'm going to turn to Article 12, and I'm going to recuse myself on it because of a conflict with it. So I'm going to turn this over to my esteemed colleague here, Mr. Harris, to take over for this. All right?
I'm just going to take 2 minutes, all right?
Yeah. I will too. While you set up, I'll be...
Yeah, you can move those in. Move that. Whatever you want.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to give Tony a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
Should be right back. While we're waiting, Tony knows the individuals here, so I'll, ask you guys if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves to the audience and the camera before we get started. Obviously I know you, so if you wouldn't mind just saying who you are, that's all.
I'm Steve Callahan. I'm president of Global Property Developers.
Jack Livingston, local developer.
Okay.
Good evening, Adam Brodsky. I'm a lawyer with Drowan, Tacho, and Morgan, and I'm working with Jack and Steve.
Great, thank you, guys. Is that all you have, Steve? Are there others? You'll just swap them out?
I got a flip side. Yeah.
Okay, good. Tony, you remember everyone here?
I do.
They just introduced themselves to the audience. Thanks. Well, we asked these gentlemen to come before us tonight. We have met with these individuals prior in executive session. They're interested in an exchange of property within the town. At this point, it needs to be made public for the reason town meeting is the only body that can accept or decide to sell town-owned property. Okay? I guess at this point, I'll turn it over to you, and we can go back and forth. And if anyone in the audience has any questions, I'll get to everyone. I might ask the board first, but everyone will be heard. So, at this point, I'll turn it over to you, Steve. Give you the floor. I feel like
Well, thank you for having us in. Maybe step
You can,
here.
yeah, or you can bring, whatever's easier. If you need more room, just bring it
I
down.
might just jump in, John, sit for a second.
I'm Steve Callahan. I'm the president of Global Property Developers here with Jack, just introduced. But Jack and I are currently working together on a local project called Whitcomb Pines. You may have heard of it. We're we're near completion, and we're currently working on hopefully our next project. So we're, as Sean indicated, we're here to talk about a proposal to the town which involves a land swap. And the tract of land we're talking about is at the top of Booth Hill. The whole parcel is over 45 acres. I'll try to orientate you here. Route 3A, Merritt Woods. This is Booth Hill Road and Manlot Road down here. So if you know where Whitcomb Pines is, that's this parcel right here. And Town Forest, part of the Ellis property. And the property tonight that I will outline it to give you an idea of the 45 acres. It's this whole yellow parcel. It's also this green parcel. Goes all the way down out here to Clap Road. There's an entrance here at Clap Road. Back in along this border up out here all the way down to Booth Hill. It has an entrance here and back up to the 3A end. So what we're really suggesting, we are currently working on a project that will be coming in soon, and we're concentrating on this yellow portion, which is about 22 acres. The main reason we're here, although we have two entrances for the project, one being Clap, which we kind of attribute to the green portion of the property, and the Booth Hill, which is really the yellow portion. We would much rather have an entrance directly onto 3A. Project is not fully designed, but it's going to be a fairly large project, and there'll be significant traffic. And we just thought, for many reasons, first being traffic would be much better to exit and enter directly onto 3A versus drive it all down through Booth Hill and onto 3A. So, I'm sure there'll be many questions, but in summary, we've outlined an acre, 1.2 acres, right in the corner here on the maroon purple. And in exchange for 1.2 acres, we're prepared to deed over to the town the entire green parcel, of this parcel being 16 plus acres, and we would even offer this. There's another 11 acres here. These two parcels were put in a permanent conservation restriction when Jack got this project approved. But if it made sense for the town, we're willing to throw that in. If you added the two together, you're talking about 27 acres with access from Clap Road. And the last time we met, we heard that there may be interest in the future for some ball fields, perhaps, the use of the land. So we took the liberties of showing a potential layout of fields. Just for scale, this would be a football-sized field, which is the largest, could be used for any other soccer, field hockey. You could even put you could fit two baseball diamonds on there, potential tennis, basketball courts, and some parking if it was to be used for that down the road. So I guess we're saying to get for this 1.2 acres to be deeded over, we would in exchange deed over 27 acres for the town. I don't know if I missed anything, but
Could I, want me to just...
Yeah, Jack and Adam, you all set for right now? Okay, all right, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, we've met with this group a couple of times. We've gone for hours, gone back and forth in terms of what they want to do, what their plans are doing, and what we think would be in the best interest of the town. You know, the size of the property swap, what you need to do is when you take some land out of conservation, you need to swap it with an equal amount of property to put back into conservation. And that's what this is doing plus, the ratio of conservation, 1.2 acres to probably 5, 6 acres of conservation land, and then also about 10 acres of usable space, upland space that can be used for other things. We were thinking fields or something of that nature. So just to get it out, there's going to be a lot of discussion on this. Sean and I met with them, and we understand it's going to be a bit of a sensitive issue. It is a 40B project. There's 20, did you say 20 acres about in that upper section?
Yellow.
22.
Right, so 22 acres. They're going to be putting in about 200 units in apartment buildings is what they're thinking about now. It's a big, big project up in that area. Although it is going to be, if you want to point at the area, it's really going to be tucked back into the property so that it's not very close to any neighbors or visual is what they're thinking. Again, nothing's drawn up yet, but that's where it's going. We spoke to the town planner, and this project can happen without that triangle of land that gives them access to 3A. It can happen by the entrance that Steve pointed out on Booth Hill Road. The problem with that is that road there is not best for the amount of traffic that's going to go on, and it's not the safest access for emergency vehicles and all that sort of stuff. And that's why we've considered giving them this other piece of land so that they can get on a 3A, and it can be a safer, better traffic-oriented entrance and exit to the property. The town is getting considerably more land for this, and the other thing is they're getting land, again, the numbers are going to, there's about 16 acres of land down there where that big green splotch is, where they had plans, tentative plans to put another 40B there also that could probably put another 60 units. I know 40B, 40Bs are the buzzword, and they're not liked and whatever. They did Whipton Pines, which was a 40B, and it went in very smoothly. So it's a difficult decision that we expect the town to vet out over the next month, and that's why I wanted to be public as soon as possible to figure out what's going on. I think that I think Sean and I in all our meetings felt that it was, what the town's getting back for the acre of property and what the acre of property gives the safety factors and the traffic factors to the town is comparable, but it's a lot of units. It's units that the town's not used to. It is units that the master plan and the MAPC report says the town needs, but it is going to be a touchy issue. So I expect this to be out and be a hot topic going on.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow for the next month. But this group did come together, and they expanded what they would give to us, and we feel it's something to put before the people to let them vote. So I don't know if I missed anything, Sean.
No, I don't think you did, but, Marty?
I just want to reiterate that, so people do understand, as Tony said, that the project is going to happen.
That's right.
I think this is a good deal for the town. We're getting a lot more than what we're giving. And for the safety issues, as far as people using Booth Hill and things like that, if you look at the amount of units, I think 3A is obviously much more suited for that kind of traffic. So that's basically all.
Good points. I just, Steve, I know exactly where it is, but for those in the audience or on television that might not know, Whitcomb Pines is closest to Steve, which is on Man Lot, and the 3A Sunoco gas station's right around the corner. I just wanted to point out those couple of areas, and, without...
And the piece of property that we're talking about, that little corner up there, is, it's actually not, it's next, you probably think it's a town forest, but it's actually a piece of the Ellis Estate on the west side of 3A. The town forest abuts it.
Right here's the town forest. Right. This wedge piece is part of the Ellis property.
I can't think of anything that you might have left out. Tony, myself, everyone has spent a lot of time looking this over and trying, and I really have to drive this home, what's best for the town. And at first, these gentlemen came before us and, presented a land swap that, we just didn't really think was enough or usable. So, they went back to the drawing board, came back, and this is what they came with. And like Tony and Marty said, it can be done. I couldn't imagine, even a much smaller project, the vehicles emptying out onto Booth Hill Road. I couldn't imagine what that would be like. And then to go out to 3A and try to negotiate on 3A, where there's a blinking light now.
So I think in our discussions, there's clearly pluses and minuses to the project from every individual's perspective, and we think it's very worthy to put before the town and let them decide on the benefits and their opinions on it. And it's, again, Marty reiterated, Sean reiterated, the project is going to happen. It's a 40B project, and the town planner has said that the access there is enough to get the project done. So, that's, just to reiterate that.
And for those wondering, they're going to treat this, it'll be on-site septic, so there'll be a large area for the leaching field and so forth. They're not going to build a mini treatment plant or anything like that. It's going to be taken care of on-site. Any other questions or comments? And I'll turn it over. I'll get to everyone in the audience. Adam?
I just wanted to point out that the project will, when it's designed, be fully reviewed by the town and other regulators. So what's being proposed is not necessarily the project, but simply a land swap to facilitate an alternative access for it. So we just want to assure people that there will be public hearings when the project comes forward for people to weigh in on.
Right.
And everything we said was preliminary. I mean, we don't know exactly where the building's going, if it's the exact number of units. All of that will be vetted through the normal process.
That's right.
A generalized scope of the project.
Right. Okay, I'll turn it over to the audience, and not to say that we can't speak again. You just identify yourself, name and address, please, Bill.
Bill Schmidt, 33 East Beach Road. I have two questions. One, is the 1 acre that's being proposed as for trade, is that zoned commercially?
No, it's in conservation.
Right. But it's not zoned.
That acre is in conservation? Oh,
yes.
That's the swap.
Right.
But when it comes out, it will be like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Second, is there a working name for this project? Is there a, it's called the Leaping Deer Project?
We didn't ask that question, did we? Doesn't have a name yet.
No.
Okay.
It's the big one. The big one up in the west end. Lastly, and I think Adam kind of answered this, but this has not gone in front of any of the local boards yet, and will still need to be vetted all the way through the
That's correct.
process.
Right.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay. Well, we've heard it many, many hours, so I don't have any other questions. Okay.
I mean, people are going to ask, and you guys are going to have meetings as well with the public, you said, as the project starts going down the steps and
Starting with zoning, Adam, zoning, conservation, or conservation?
Well, it's uncertain that we would need an order of conditions for the project because we may be able to do all of the work outside of the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction, but ultimately it will be the Zoning Board of Appeals which would issue a comprehensive permit.
Okay.
I think there was some discussion outside of that process to actually reach out to the neighborhoods and have some informal meetings with the neighborhoods to advise people and solicit comments. So we're certainly open to anything that makes this process as transparent as possible.
And along those lines, Bill raises a good point. It has to go back to Toll Brothers. If you could come up with the name of the project, and the reason I mention this, only because for the general public, they can track this project a little easier, a little more user-friendly. Tricia and I think Bill and others in Town Hall are trying to make projects like this easier for the, working people to, be able to attend a meeting, and not really have to dig to find it. We're working on that for the Toll Brothers project, correct? So if this could happen, that would be important to maybe to Bill's point.
The only other thing I want to say too is, we had discussions a month ago about the potential for this not to be a 40B project. And as Attorney Brodsky referred to, the state is actually going to be issuing a lot of the permits because 40B is regulated by the state. So what we've been trying to do is work as a cooperative and friendly manner as possible with the developer, given that the town really doesn't hold a lot of cards when there's a 40B development. We just wanted to, if people ask the question, well, could this be something other, could it be single-family homes or whatever, we've sort of gone down that road already with the developer.
Thank you,
And the only
Tricia.
other thing I'd add is that the next step of this is, we're having the meeting tonight because we're going over the warrant tonight. It's got to get on the warrant tonight so that it can be at the special town meeting so that the town can vote on it.
Everyone has a chance to ask a
That'll be going to the
question.
advisory committee, too.
Right.
Right, thank you. Bill, did you have another question?
This won't trigger watershed with conservation, given that the size and the fact that it is involved in...
Well, I think they'd have to get at least a notice of intent. I'm new liaison to conservation, so, no?
So this is
All
the
right.
challenge,
Right.
this is the challenge with 40Bs, is they're regulated at the state, and what's happening in the town right now is we have 2 40Bs being built that were permitted and approved over 8 and 10 years ago. And those permits approved 8 and 10 years ago are the ones that follow the development of the property today. And in 10 years, topography, geography, water tables can all change, but those permits granted 10 years ago are still the same. So that's why if they're going to build this and get it permitted now, that's the lesser of two evils, because if they get the permit and don't build, then all that stuff and some of the issues you're concerned about could change in a few years.
And I might be able to answer your question a little bit differently. If ultimately we're within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, we will have to file a notice of intent for an order of conditions. Comprehensive permit is not exempt from the requirements of the State Wetlands Protection Act. The town's local wetlands protection bylaw would not apply, but we would still be subject to the State Wetlands Protection Act. Again, we don't have a design, so we don't know where we are in proximity to any wetland resource areas. So it's difficult. So obviously, if we need an order of conditions, we will be filing a notice of intent for that.
So who would tell you or any developer if you are encroaching on the wetlands? The state?
Well, no, we would hire a professional wetlands scientist to delineate the wetlands.
And then
if there are any questions regarding the delineation, we would file an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation with the Conservation Commission to confirm those lines. So that very well may be a...
And just, we've already identified the wetlands and filed that with Conservation, so an NRED plan has already been on file.
Okay.
So they're all delineated. So we kind of know, I think...
Where they are.
What we're saying is if we need to go there, we're going. As a matter of fact, if we don't do the land swap and we're going out Booth Hill, we will have a crossing.
Right, that's right, too.
Which we'd like to avoid.
Right.
And so we will probably have to go, if we have to go out that way, or if we're encroaching within 100 feet, but it's a large piece of property. As of right now, it's all upland, and, if we're within the 100-foot buffer, we may not.
Right.
But our local conservation wetlands bylaws can be more stringent than the state. And so the state would apply in this project as opposed to anything that might be more onerous than the local conservation.
All right, okay. Tony, did you have another thought, or anyone else in the audience?
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions from the paper, when the paper goes out and from people watching it, so we expect to have many discussions about it.
Yeah, this is just the beginning.
And I'll just, it hasn't been intentional to keep the project quiet. We've been actually working on it for a year and a half, and it's really been this issue we wanted to address first to see if it, because, we want to do the right thing. And, by giving up what we call the next project, just so you see, you've kind of fended off another potential 40B. Now, whether that's us, and I don't want to make that sound threatening, but, it could happen down the road.
Well, there's clearly 7 or 8 acres of upland on that piece of property that you're willing to swap.
And you have had some conversations with some of the abutters on Booth Hill, I think, not so much Clap or Merritt Woods, but you had conversations with people on Booth Hill, you said I had asked
Yes.
that question. Right, okay. All right. If there aren't any other questions, thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it. We're going to be voting all these now, Tricia?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Because we have not voted them, we
Can
discussed
John
them
be
and
in here
decided.
for number 12? Or should we
Should we
do this
vote
without?
number
him?
12 first?
Why don't we do
Yeah, why don't you
that?
do, who's going to do it, and then vote Article 12 on the warrant.
So I'll do 12.
Okay, if you want to, Tony, that's fine.
And then
Make a motion to accept Article 12 as written.
I have a motion to accept Article
Second.
12, and in a second, all those in favor to bring this to town meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, unanimous.
Just a point of order, if you could read the motion that was provided in your packet, it's kind of important.
Sure. Do you want to, do you have a question for that?
Oh, was there a question in the audience?
Yeah, nobody read the...
Oh, all right, okay.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Move to see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey a portion of the town-owned land located on Chief Justice Highway and accept a compensation for such conveyance and other parcel of land located off Clap Road for some other parcel, and file legislation as may necessary to authorize such exchange, including the release of restrictions on the use of town-owned land, or take any action relative thereto.
All right, a motion and a second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you. We could just go right through these, and whoever's doing them can read them right now.
Oh, we have to read, yeah.
I have to read every one. John, so we'll do that. We have to read them and vote on them. So you just read yours first?
You can do it as one global.
Could we can?
Yeah?
Really?
Just read the motion that Lorraine gave you under the executive action,
Okay.
which I can find.
How come I can't find it?
It's number...
This motion right here.
Page 44 of your tablet.
Okay.
Executive action request, special town meeting warrant. Is the title.
Move that the board approve the special town meeting warrant for Thursday, November 13, 2014, contingent upon any changes made by town council and/or the town administrator.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All right, moving on, folks. We are going on to Public Facilities Master Plan items, Middle School and Public Safety Complex. Number one is the update for the master plan. Tricia?
Thank you. Since we have our bi-monthly update on the facilities plan, I just want to remind the board that the first open forum for the public safety complex is this Thursday, October 23rd at 7 at the Scituate Harbor Community Building. There will be one Saturday, November 8th at the same place at 3 o'clock. And then on November 20th, we'll have a joint meeting with the middle school project with school folks at 7 o'clock at the Scituate Harbor Community Building. I did want to speak a little bit about an article that was in the Mariner 2 weeks ago. It was a commentary that mentioned that there was mold on the second floor of the Council on Aging. The Council on Aging Director has responded to the Mariner with a correction regarding that. I just want to assure folks, particularly our seniors who may be watching at home, that there is no mold on the second floor of the Council on Aging, and that the building is safe to be in. So we'll be looking for a correction for that misinformation there.
Ruth, you can help us out on that, right?
Nothing to do with that.
Sorry, okay, just checking.
Sorry.
Getting your wake out back there.
The other thing is, I did this memo up for the board today, and not expecting you to go over it, but to keep it with you, because as we talked earlier about the FY16 budget timetable happening in the fall at the same time as these town meetings, there's lots of different dates and statutory deadlines to keep in mind. So this is sort of like a little calendar for you to keep, to show all the benchmarks that we have to hit with posting these warrants and the December 3rd special town meeting warrant and the election. So that's just for your information, but as you can see, it's very, very tight, and one wrong move in any of these dates really create problems for us because they can be deemed null and void. So I just wanted to call that to your attention, and also, as we discussed earlier, that you will actually be voting the warrant for the December 3rd special town meeting at your next meeting. So, one warrant down, another to go. So, that's that. And then, finally, and I want to reiterate again, especially to the press in the room, we're dealing with lots of numbers that are very fluid at this point and not stable. So, you know, it's very important that the numbers that we use are the numbers that people use in the media or around town, because they're going to change, and we're doing the best we can, but this is complex stuff, and we don't want taxpayers to get the wrong information about impacts until we're very, very sure of what they are. So I just wanted to reiterate that to folks, that sometimes what you read is not always correct, and then we're trying to run and correct them. So we're working really hard. Nancy and I are available to anybody that has questions about the numbers. And
the other piece of that is there's 5 moving pieces there. So you got to understand whatever the number is, it may include 1 or 5 of them. So, you know, it does get confusing.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. I think that brings us to the next agenda item, a discussion of the debt structure, which is a continuation from our last meeting 2 weeks ago about the middle school and public safety complex, and Nancy Holt, our finance director, is in front of us again, Nancy, to discuss it so that we can finally take a vote on whether it would be prudent to go on a 20-year, 25, or 30-year bond.
Thank you very much for having me back today, or this evening, I should say. The day is almost over. As you said, this is a continuation of our discussion from the October 7th meeting relevant to the funding mechanisms and tax impacts of the middle school and public safety complexes. And per your request, I've incorporated the library project, which was previously approved in November 2013 as debt exclusion, so that you can see the full impact of all 3. Tonight, we're going to examine the current outstanding long-term general fund debt, the authorized but yet unissued debt, current debt exclusions, and the impact of those items of the middle school, the public safety building, and the library on the debt exclusions. And please note that we are speaking of debt exclusions. I want to point this out to people, that debt exclusions are only a temporary increase to the tax limit. They are not permanent. Each year they would decline over the life of the project, and once the project is paid for, the debt exclusion goes away. So if you approve a debt exclusion, you're not married to it for life, you're just married to it till you pay it down. The addition to the tax bill authorized by the debt exclusion, as we just said, would be paid off. And with the structure that we're looking at, it's a level principal every year. So it's not like a mortgage where it's a set dollar amount and it's the same every year. It's a level principal, so as we pay down the principal portion, our interest lowers. So our overall payment, the first year will be the worst year, and then it'll get better from there on, better meaning less expensive.
That's an important thing that people need to understand, Nancy, that it's, because many people are going to probably think of their mortgage as the example or analogy, but that's important for principal, that each year the principal and interest continues to go down, first year being the worst. All right.
Right. So there is some relief every year that you get further into this schedule. I also want to point out, while we were both talking about a mortgage, when we talk about, there are slides in here that show the total cost impact, which do not look like the total project that someone's going to vote. You need to remember, when you buy a car, the sticker price says $25,000, but when you go to sign in the nice dark office in the back, the 10-foot long agreement, and all of a sudden you're paying $41,000, there is a price to borrow money. So we're explaining to you what the full cost of the project is, but that's not what would be before voters to be voted. The middle school project is $75 million, of which $54 million will be what the town share approximately would be, and the public safety building would be 16.2. So the first slide you have before you is the current and previously authorized long-term general fund debt. So this is all the debt that has been issued for projects that have been done and is currently being repaid by the town. The blue bar is what's currently out there. The red bar are those projects which have been authorized but are as yet unissued. And those projects would include anything that's been authorized in the last 2 years as part of the capital plan to be funded by borrowing, such as roads, foreshore protection, larger pieces of equipment like the fire truck that Chief Murphy is currently inspecting in Florida. All those would be on there, including the ESCO. Now, you see a little choppiness in the red bar. That is due to the fact that we don't know at this point when we issue the bond how much of any one of these projects will be included or the maturity term. To create the calculation, I made a lot of assumptions about this piece of equipment will be 5 years, this piece of equipment will be 10 years, we'll be issuing the full amount. Some of these things may come in under budget or they may not be yet ready to be borrowed, such as the ESCO. The ESCO Phase 2, when it happens, it may not be when we do our next borrowing, it may be kicked off to the following one. So that would affect those. Also, the town has a lot of flexibility as it crafts its bond issues to control the length of maturity for any one particular item in it, which will allow us to smooth that red bar so that we can keep it going down. So even though it looks choppy, it's because there are some unknowns in how we would issue everything that we have currently outstanding, but we can smooth that out when we do issue the bond, because we'll have more information at that time and we'll have more control. Now, these are our current debt exclusions.
Nancy, one quick question.
Certainly.
The red authorized stuff is the stuff that's been banned already, or the stuff that is likely to be actually purchased? It's not stuff that's sitting out there that's been there for years and we're really not going to do. These are projects that are definitely in the pipeline.
Yes, as we noted in the previous discussion on the town meeting warrant, there were 4 borrowing authorizations that were being rescinded because they're older and they're not going to be used. Those are the only 4 that are currently out there that could be rescinded. So everything else that's still on or authorized by town meeting but not yet issued as long-term debt are projects that are currently ongoing. If they're not spent, they're likely to be spent. Soon. Didn't want to leave that as a never to be, it's soon. So the next slide is the current debt exclusions, and this is the total dollar value. So there's a little bit over 1.5 million outstanding for fiscal 15 to be added to the tax bill. And as you can see, the blue portion is the Jenkins School debt exclusion. The yellow portion is the Wampatuck School. And for anyone who can't see this because it washed out, my apologies for not getting yellow out of that. It would be the middle portion between the blue and the red. That's Wampatuck. And then the red portion is the sewer upgrade. And you can see as they gradually drop off, that's when they mature and that debt exclusion is no longer added to the tax bill. Now, for everyone who wants to really know, how does that impact me? I want to know how it hits my wallet. This is the tax impact on the average tax payer with a house value of $480,000. So it's a little bit below $200 currently that's added to the tax bill for those 3 projects. And as you can see, it's declining, and in fiscal 20, it'll drop off sharply.
So the sewer, explain the sewer?
This was a previously authorized debt exclusion, this project.
To do the plant, or this isn't the
I
better?
can't tell you.
I think it's the plant.
It's the plant.
Yeah, the 15
I didn't have the information on
upgrade.
that one. I've been looking for it, but thank you. Now I have the information. But that fully matures in fiscal 21. There's about 5 or 6 different pieces to that debt exclusion. It was done through the Mass Water Pollution Abatement Trust, through multiple different pools. So all of those pools will fully mature on fiscal 21, but that's why you see a market drop between fiscal 19 and then 20, because the biggest portion of it is going to retire before all of it. So what would the 2 projects do? On this particular slide, what you see does not include the offsets that we discussed, the $300,000, $100,000 from the solar array, $100,000 from the wind turbine, and $100,000 from meals tax. I excluded them so that I could break the middle school and the public safety buildings apart so you could see their different impacts. The lowest level is the Jenkins School. The next level up, the yellow, is Wampatuck School. Then you have the sewer upgrade, and then the green portion would be the library. The brown portion would be the public safety building, and the top blue portion would be the middle school. And this would be the impact, tax impact on the average $480,000 house. And I'm going to move past this just so we can see what the offsets will do. I'm going to try to move past it. Now, this is with the middle school and public safety complex put together so we can apply the offsets to the two projects together. And that now takes the place of those top two bars and makes it a solid brown bar. And as you can see, it tapers downward, and that's that effect of that level principle, where the first year is the worst impact, and each year it gets better after that. And then by fiscal 35, it will be gone. In both of these charts, I'm using a 20-year maturity schedule only because we can then represent it graphically. If you, the board votes in its wisdom tonight for a 25 or a 30-year maturity, this would be slightly less. Now, this
Does it have the offset from the MSBA?
Yes, this is net of the MSBA offset and net of the Mass Library Building Commission. I always get it wrong. I want to say MBLC, but it's MLBC. Construction grant of $5 million. So this is net of both of those. Thank you for pointing that out. Now, the next slide is the one that we did have at our last meeting. Please, again, as has been pointed out, these numbers are fluid, so you have the large red estimated on there, so you shouldn't become married to any number on this particular slide. The orange portion is the addition of the library project, and this is the overall cost. Again, overall cost including 20 years, 25 years, or 30 years of interest, not what people are going to be asked to vote for. Now, the middle school is shown net of the estimated MSBA reimbursement of over $20 million. The library is shown net of the MBLC $5 million construction grant approximately, but not the private donations. Right now, we don't have a good handle on the extent that the private donations will be able to reduce that, so the library portion could come down, and we expect it would come down by those private donations. So
I wouldn't hold your breath.
I'm hoping there are ears out there that are attached to deep pockets. The 20 years, our financial advisor has recommended to us to use 4%. Right now, the rates are somewhere in the low 3s, but this is what we've been recommended to use, so we're being conservative. The last thing you ever want to do is provide a number that doesn't come to fruition and it comes in much higher. We'd rather everyone get a break and it comes in much lower.
And under those circumstances, you'd be the one that the chair or any other board member will be pointing to in front of everybody at town meeting to speak on that issue, Nancy.
So Norwell just floated their bond for their police station. It was about $5 million, 20-year bond. They're a AAA community. The interest rate was 2.61.
Yeah, so we would certainly love to be in that category. So we are being very conservative with our interest rates, just to make sure that we don't sell this project on a number that isn't true. We expect it to come in lower, and that would be a great thing for everyone if it does, but you have to be realistic when presenting these numbers. So the 20 years is at a 4% interest rate, 25 years at 4.25%, and 30 years at 4.5%. You can see the impact, the difference in the net impact between 20, 25, and 30, that's all interest. That's the additional interest that you'll have to pay. The actual project cost isn't changing, it's just the amount of interest that's going to be due. So it's about a $19 million difference between 20 years and 30 years. So what does that do for the average taxpayer of a $480,000 home? Year one, you're looking at a net impact at that 4% of a maximum of $835. Year two at 25 years, year one for 25 years at 4.25, you're looking at $762. Year one for 30 years, you're looking at $723. So it looks like there's a big difference between 20 and 30, $112. But when you look at that over a monthly basis, that's about $10 a month. And that's the question that's before the board. Is the relief given in that first, say, 10 years of the project when it's the worst, especially the first year, worth all the extra interest that the taxpayer would have to pay? Again, I wouldn't recommend to the board the full 30 years. That's the maximum you can borrow for, and it really puts a tight timeline on getting the money issued out, but that's completely up to the board. Now, for the overall total that someone's going to pay over the lifetime of the bond, and that's assuming someone's owning their home for an additional 20 years, or someone that recently bought their home staying there for 20, 25 years, it would be approximately $13,000 for the three projects under 20 years, $14,000 for 25 years, or $15,000 for 30 years. So we're not trying to say that it's not an expensive project. It is an expensive project, but if these projects move forward at this time, this is the best time to do it in terms of interest rates. You're just not going to see them stick around at this low rate for too much longer. And then you're going to be talking about borrowing at 4, 4.5, 5. Well, we're projecting 4, but I mean, just hoping you could get a 4. Now, some of the things I
Tony,
did
do you have a
want-
question?
Yeah, just a quick question. It seems like you're recommending a 20-year note, but then you say interest rates are never going to be this low again. So why wouldn't we just borrow it at these low rates as long as we could and take advantage of the timing of the project?
That's an absolutely valid point. The only issue I would show to you would be the $19 million you're going to pay in extra interest.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a deceiving, I mean, over
Well,
10 years, I mean...
And it is. You certainly are going to lower that impact on the taxpayer initially, but the taxpayer is going to be paying for it longer.
Right, but the use of the
Hard not to
money
crack.
for other purposes is going to be at a higher rate in those out years if we think interest rates, I mean, not that any of us can predict interest rates, but we know it's at all-time lows right now. I mean, most people out there are saying, get a 30-year mortgage right now because you're never going to see it this low again. But, I mean, that's my thought in terms of extending it as long as possible.
And an absolutely valid thought, and that would be one of the supports for a longer term, more relief, and maximize the lower rate. Something else that, just to keep on your mind, would be that this debt is going to be out there for that period of time, and anything we issue will be on top of it. Even though they're debt exclusions, it's still going to be a level of debt that we're going to have to make, that we'll be maintaining. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I did want to mention to you that we're talking about where Norwell issued recently and what we're projecting as conservative estimates. What would be the impact if we had a 25 basis point change? And 25 basis points is 1/4%. So if all of these went down by 1/4%, what would it mean? On a 20-year bond, you would see the number go down by $2,029,175. The impact would go down by $24 a year on year one, and the overall savings over the 20 years would be $254.
So that 835
Go
would
to
be...
811.
811.
Yeah. Now, for the 25 years, I'm just going to flip between the two slides. I apologize if at this late date I make someone seasick. The overall impact would go down by approximately $2.5 million. Again, it's a 25-year one tax impact savings, and that $14,000 number would go down by $315. And over 30 years, the overall savings would be almost $3 million in interest. That year one, sorry, wrong way. The year one tax impact would go down further by another $24, and the 30-year impact would go down by $376. Now, that's just 1/4%. If we were actually lucky enough to go out and issue at a 3.5, 3.25, or a 3, multiply that by 2 or 4, and that's significantly less money that the taxpayer would incur. We're not going to present it that way because it's not reasonable, because we cannot guarantee what the market would do. If we could do that in this room, we'd all be happy and we'd all be millionaires. But it is something that people should be aware of, where the market currently is, that we will probably be able to take advantage of that.
So you're saying every quarter, every 25 basis points gives you $24 worth of relief on your yearly impact?
Correct, and you're saving about $2 million in interest.
The other thing that Norwell did is they got a $380,000 premium on the bond issuance, and they took half of that and applied it to write down the debt in the first year.
And that's something I would certainly recommend to the board. Right now, especially as you've seen the bands that have come before you that Pam has brought, that have very large premiums, and it's not unheard of for some of these projects that you would get a multi-million-dollar premium. Because what the underwriters are trying to do is they want to sell the bond in the marketplace to investors who want a higher coupon rate. So they'll raise the coupon rate and give the town cash, so the net interest will be lower than what the coupon rate is. So the town, in the end, only pays the net amount, but it's how you deal with that premium. In the past, what the town has done is they've reserved the money and each year applied it to the debt exclusion. Now, we're being advised by our FA that that is potentially an issue with the IRS, that they're frowning on that the town is reserving the money, even though that's what the Department of Revenue is telling you to do. And one of the options that we could do is bring it to the, say if we issued this, the projects were approved, and the debt was issued in March of 2015, a majority of the debt, at the April town meeting, bring an article forward to write down the debt by the premium. And what would happen is that at the time that the bonds were sold, we would recommend to the FA that they use whatever the premium is after costs and reduce the bond by that amount. So you would only pay the difference between the gross amount of the bond and the premium, and it would be dealt with then and amortized over the life of the bond, and it would never be this, we got to keep taking it out year after year after year. It would be done and sold that way. So it makes a lot of sense, and then the premium is guaranteed that it's amortized correctly over the entire life of the bond. And it is very likely that we will receive a large premium. Of how much, it depends on the market the day the bond sells.
Interesting. Questions from the board?
No, not right this second.
So do we have to decide tonight what year, what?
It's up to the
Time
board
period?
to decide tonight whether or not they decide tonight. The only concern I have is that we want to release numbers to people, and giving them a range is a little confusing to people.
It's a real problem to get numbers out to people. And, I mean, the other thing, 20 versus 30, is you're really holding hostage the overall debt service of the town for another 10 years. I mean, we're only talking about 2 projects. We know that there's going to be another school at some point, not a new school, but major renovations. We have to deal with gates once it's empty if these projects, so that's 10 more years of debt we're going to be carrying over top other debt in 10 or 15 years for other projects. Although, to Tony's point, I mean, you know, the net present value of money now versus 30 years from now, I mean, there's clearly arguments on both sides.
Interesting. Questions from the audience? Anybody? Well, the new alternate for the planning board, Ann Burbine.
Ann Burbine's 1030 East Road. I can see Tony's point of that money going out over 30 years. However, has been pointed out, that's 19 million extra dollars that we, the taxpayers, will have to pay over the 30 years. Is that not, am I understanding that correctly?
Correct.
That $19 million might be better served somewhere else than lowering what we have to pay by $10 or $20 a month. I mean, I think that 19 million is a lot of money.
Not to be presumptuous, but it's not necessarily that we as a town would use it. It may go back to the actual homeowner, property owner, and they are able to use it. It's just a question of paying up front and kind of decreasing it.
That's not what I meant.
No, I know that, but I'm saying that, no, I know what you're saying, that we could use, I'm just saying, just want to make sure that people are aware, it's a savings issue.
Yes, it is a savings issue. I'd rather save that 19 million.
Thank you.
Well, you're going to use it for something else, and you're going to spend a higher interest rate on whatever else you buy. So, you know, if you take it into perspective over a 30-year window, you know, unless the interest rates continue to go down, you're going to be spending more than that on other projects.
Yes.
Robin LeBaron, 49 Filman Drive. What's the, we're at pretty low debt now as a town, right? So what's our total borrowing capacity?
That's a good question. Our total borrowing capacity is around 200 million. And right now, we're at approximately 50 million, but that includes all of the enterprise funds as well, not just general funds. So we have the capacity to borrow this within our existing debt limit under the statute.
It's a good question. I didn't know that.
Well within. We have a very low debt ratio.
I was actually, from the last meeting...
Our rating low, our rating high also.
At the last meeting, I was intrigued by the 30-year, but I tend to think, you know, the 20-year might make more sense. for a number of reasons. One is, yes, there's a cost savings to the taxpayers of $19 million. And I think the other issues, to the point of what are we going to do in the future, is going to be decided by the taxpayers if they go forward with these projects that we're proposing. So I'm inclined to go with the 20. 25 or 30, I see the potential savings for the short term, but you're extending it long term.
I would probably split the difference, I guess. I like you, John, was probably leaning towards a 30-year note at the last meeting. $19 million is a lot of money to save. Split the difference.
Is the delta between the 20 and 30-year bond right now 50 basis points?
Yes.
It is.
And is that in, nothing's in concrete?
Nothing's in concrete,
Okay.
because you can issue in the marketplace from a Tuesday to a Wednesday and see a jump.
I realize that percentage, but the difference from the years to, that's not even
No,
etched in stone.
that's just what is recommended to us to use. Your interest rates will be higher the longer your term is,
Right.
because the person that buying your debt is going to want a higher coupon rate if they're that far out.
That's right.
Not that I'm trying to manipulate anything here, but assume for the sake of argument that we were to go with Sean's suggestion, 25 years, and of course, we're looking at it from a 4.25%. And of course, we'll find out when we bond it, it's potentially could be a lot lower, and even if we, at that point, do we have the flexibility of reducing it to a 20-year at that point? Now, I realize we're going to present it, but I'm saying no, so
No,
right,
because as part of our, excuse me here for interrupting you, Chairman, as part of our offering, we'll have to provide an official statement saying how long the maturity is, and those bids will be based on the maturity schedule that the underwriter is looking at. So we won't have the opportunity to change it. The only opportunity we have would be to take the premium and reduce it.
when the bids don't come in until actually it's been approved.
The bids don't come until we issue an official statement, which is our offering document, with a date and time upon which we will accept bids.
But I'm saying that won't happen until after the vote.
It's got to pass.
So it's got to pass first.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
saying
that
after it
we're-
passes,
Right now, this is just for marketing or information.
pretty much for the public to understand, that's why I'm saying.
Now, you can change your mind at any time up until the time we offer the bond.
That's what I'm saying. In other words, at some point, we have the flexibility, if it turns out that we think the percentage would be less.
Yeah,
at
if you
what
see
point.
rates ratcheting up, you might want to taper it down to take advantage of a lower rate.
Well, what's everybody think? Sean?
You heard my
Myself?
suggestion.
Tony? Marty?
Politically,
Well, I'm between the 20 and the 25, and I'm inclined to go with the 20 because, I mean, we're looking at, I mean, we're figuring it, I don't even want to jinx us, but we're figuring at much higher interest rates that we're probably going to be looking at, and I think that the difference is already going to be ironed out between the 20 and the 30, just with what we're going to get the money at, what we're going to bond at. But then I kind of like Sean's suggestion, somewhere in the middle, so I'm between the 20 and the 25. I would not stretch it out 30 because I don't see bonding something the additional 10, because I go back and I flip back at all the other projects we have, and if they had been bonded out longer, we'd be assuming that debt on top of all this other debt at the same time, and that's the part that scares me. And we know there's a lot of other things coming down the pipeline.
But they were. When we did them, we bonded them out to the full.
Traditionally, that's
Which
what
was
you
20.
do. It's
Right,
only
was it-
been,
that's so true, that was
since
20.
Jane was the treasurer, and since then, that we've done shorter terms for things because of that.
And I do want to point out that the 30-year option has only recently been made available in the last few years. Prior to that, for the most part, 20
25.
was the maximum. Seawall, it used to be the maximum was 10.
Is it because these projects are just getting more expensive?
So I guess what I'm saying, if 30 was available, then, and if we were bonded out at 30 on that project, which wasn't available, where would we be sitting? That's the only thing that would concern me. I mean, obviously, it makes it's a little nicer to have that, you know, go from 835 or whatever to 723, but for the sake of $100 and something a year, I don't see spending $19 million extra. I just don't see it.
You're getting a little deceived with the $100 and the 19 million, because it's $100 for 10,000 people. If every one of those people takes that $100 and puts it in the bank, and the interest rates go up, you're going to make more money than the $19 million over the course of the loan.
I understand.
So it's-
If the interest rates go up, you know.
Right, yeah, so you're kind of looking at,
you're saying, oh, it's only $10. Oh, it's gonna be 19 million, but it's $10 for a lot of people. So,
I'm looking at
I think
impact
for
on
the,
people,
for the
that's all.
informational stuff, maybe you put it in the middle, like Sean's suggesting, and we figure out and get some,
Solid numbers.
yeah, get some people that are, more financial experts to give an opinion
All right.
on what they think the yield curve of, 30-year bond is, or...
Good luck.
Mr. Schmidt?
Bill Schmidt, 33 Egypt Beach Road. Right now, we are talking about numbers with a 2-star, with a town
Double A.
rated.
Double A.
Double A.
Plus.
Okay,
Double
double A
A, one
plus.
notch below triple A, which is the
Okay,
highest.
so would the numbers be better if we were AAA?
But it's unlikely that we'll be AAA.
Yes, they would be better. It is
But not by much.
unlikely we'll be triple A for $70 million.
Right now in the marketplace, a double A and a triple A are very close.
AAA
The
next
rates are
year.
so low,
Okay.
they can't have too much in between them.
Okay,
Year after.
okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Tricia, can I ask, when would, in your opinion, could we be AAA?
If you
And-
put
and-
400,000 into it.
No. If
I'm
this,
kidding.
let's say, if this was not on the table, a
It's-
year or 2 years?
We can only do so much where we have a score and we're rated and we know what that is, but there's so many outside factors, given the market, given what the trends S&P and Moody's are seeing in other bond-rated communities, what the government and the IRS is doing to taxable bonds in the municipal market. So there's lots and lots of variables
parts.
beyond our control. Nancy, do you want to add anything?
The OPEB liability is the big sticking issue
Yeah.
for us right now. It is in our financial policies. We've been funding it for a number of years. We have a trust fund. But as Tricia spoke to before, we asked our FAs, what do we need? And we need to adopt a trust document. We need to allocate more funds to our OPEB liability. Right now, this year's allocation was, I think, $76,000 on a $65 million liability.
And our annual required contribution is $4 million on our 54 unfunded. So, doing the trust plan adoption's fine, changing our financial policies is fine. It's just, we didn't even create this fund till 2010, I think, when I came, and so we're just behind the 8 ball on it.
So you're saying we'd have to put $4 million a year into there?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that what the rating agencies is looking for is, A, they've already acknowledged we know that that liability's out there, but that we need to make a more significant appropriation into it and have it embedded in our financial policies stronger than the 2% of our retirement assessment, which we have right now. Because that's only yielding about $70,000 a year.
Now, our retirement assessment at the current funding ratio should be paid off in 2034, at which time it'll drop from in the millions to a few $100,000. And that's when you have the real opportunity to allocate those funds to the OPEB liability, but that's 19 years away. So we have to make
If they don't
more
extend it
concerted
again.
effort between now and then towards our OPEB liability. And it's not just the funding, it's anything else that you do with the plan design, the plans themselves, to impact that every time you have an actuarial study.
Well, that's not going to happen between now and if we go out to bond to figure that out.
We do
It's a
our
whole nother
best, as
issue.
we always do, to sell the town and let them see the merits that the town of Scituate has, and that it is a very liquid town, and it is something that should deserve a AAA.
All right, then, I think it sounds like, thank you for the presentation, that was very well
Great
done, Nancy.
information.
Really, that's
Very easy
very
to follow,
helpful,
Nancy.
and be able to demonstrate to people. Yes, Robin?
Hi, Robin Laverne, 49 Kerwin Drive. As a taxpayer, knowing that there are more projects coming down the pipeline, I would rather keep my $73 or my $112 a year now and have it available for the somewhat known other projects, and put it in my bank and let it collect. So just a comment.
All right. Anybody else? Well, in that case, then you need a motion for it, right?
I would appreciate a motion if the
Figured
board
as
is ready
much.
to do so. If not, I understand. And
Any further
certainly
discussion?
hold on.
What does the motion, what does the motion do? It doesn't lock us into doing that term.
No, I would say that the board, what we would like is the board to vote a funding schedule that allows the financial team to develop cost scenarios to communicate to taxpayers what the impact of these projects will be.
Okay, so
Right.
are we good with
Yes.
25 years? Does that seem?
Let's be, yeah, that's what the board's pleasure is, and I'd like to...
Okay, so I make a
keep it-
motion to do the information through the financial committee at 25 years.
Second.
What she said.
The financial sketch. What she said, right? Is that what it-
You get all that, Ellie?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So we've got a motion that we are going to present to the public for the financial figures of these projects of a 25-year bond. Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by, I think it was Mr. O'Toole?
Yes, sir.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you, gentlemen.
There you go. Thank you. Well done. All right, we're going to move on to new business, which actually has no business, because then we go to other business. Am I correct? Yeah. All right. Wow, that was very quick. I like that. Let's go to other business. Correspondence and approval of the minutes for April 14th, 2014, and June 10th, 2014.
Move to accept the minutes of April 14, 2014, and June 10, 2014.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vignani, seconded by Mr. Harris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Is there correspondence, Mr. Clerk?
Nope.
There's something at the Post.
Yeah, I noticed
Legion
that.
Post is inviting us to an annual Veterans Day thing, I think.
Oh, that's right. Do you see that? Yep.
See that?
The Commander, Robert A. Young, sends to the Board of Selectmen on behalf of the Scituate American Legion Post Number 144, cordially invited the Board to the Veterans on November 11th at their annual Veterans Day ceremony and dinner at the GAR, 11 o'clock.
John, have you attended a Tony? We have in the past. It's pretty nice.
I'm going to try to make that on the 11th.
Pretty nice.
So I'll
Really
make sure we
nice.
get an RSVP out.
Great.
Anything else for correspondence? Doesn't look it. So, other business, gentlemen?
Just a quick thing. In our neighborhood in Sand Hills, first of all, I want to just comment on everything that the water department has been doing. I know it's sort of beyond their, I don't want to say capability, but certainly beyond their normal job description. And for the last couple of days, we've had some issues over in our neighborhood. And today I was probably a little bit, I wouldn't want to use the word irate, but I got a few phone calls just asking if I had water and things like that. So I went over to where the scene of the water main break was, and I approached a gentleman who I didn't know who he was, and he didn't know who I was, because I certainly didn't look like a selectman this morning. But his name was Mike Dwight, and I just want to comment on the professionalism of how he handled the situation. He just explained to me what was happening, because the word we had gotten was we would have no water till 8 o'clock this evening. And he assured me that they were doing everything that they could to speed up the process. And it happened to be in front of Mr. Danahy's house, so I just kind of didn't know if he had run over the meter this morning, the gate this morning. So, but I just want to comment on that. I think they're doing an excellent job, and they got us back up and running by later this afternoon, so that was all I had.
The school bus ran over it. All I know is I saw the bus run over it, and I saw a bunch
it
of
was a
water, and
foreign
I
vehicle,
said,
I
hey,
don't know.
that's what happened. Mr. Vignani?
You're going to talk about our French...
I was.
Okay, I'll let you do that.
That's right.
Hold on, I don't have much. I'll just make two quick comments on the sporting front. The boys and girls soccer team in Scituate are ranked number 1 and number 2 in our whole conference here. The boys are undefeated. I think they're both undefeated. Maybe one of them has one loss, and one of them is ranked in the whole state, like number 4 in the state. So they're doing great. The playoffs are coming on. Just go back to the field when you see the lights on and watch them play. It's really great. Football team has had some bad luck, but it's really, the games have been a lot of fun, and the turnout has been great. So Friday nights, a good night to see there, and support these kids. They're out there working hard. It's the end of their seasons, and they're fighting for playoff positions, and it's a great community draw. And I'll let John talk.
Wait a minute, Tony, what about the boys' golf?
Well, the boys' golf team is doing well, too. They made the state tournament, and They had a very good season as well.
And is it a special day in your house today, my wife might have told me?
Today? Jeez, every day is a special day. Am I missing something? Is it my anniversary? No.
All right, okay. Just giving you a chance. Couple of things.
Am I missing something?
Tricia, can you give me an update of the town pier, please? I forgot when Kevin was here. You know, I don't know, that project is, you know.
I was gonna actually say,
Guys are
it appears to be
doing,
going.
they're wonderful guys. They're very accommodating to all the fishermen. It's just, you know, and it's frustrating for everyone, probably frustrating for them too, to try to work in a small confined space while there's fishing going on. Lately, the latest thing that the government has made all the lobstermen have to take all their traps in by January 1st, and that's something that's never been done, so they'll see. And this company knows that. I'm sure they've spoken to the fishermen in the past. That was it.
All right, since we're on the fishing and the pier, Tricia, I know that the docks are going to be removed. Is there any plan that they're not going to be put on Cole Parkway?
I did ask that question, and that ship has sailed for this year. I suggested another location for that. In order to move the docks to another location, it would be 4 times the cost of it is. The crane would have to come in 2 extra days to move them to an alternate location, I was informed. So...
All right, so let me say this for the board. Whether it's going to cost more money next year in the budget, I want to see in a line item, I'm going to ask that those docks are going to be paid to be taken off at the expense of the enterprise fund, because those docks should not be placed in Cole Parkway.
So are they going there this year? Is
They're
that
going
what-
there this year.
It's too late.
It's too late.
I don't think they look that bad, John. I don't. You know, it's part of Scituate.
Yeah, if you don't like seeing the harbor.
Well, it's January. I mean, you can go to other places along the coast.
We can close Front
You know,
Street.
maybe we'll stack them up
Put 'em over-
taller, and then they, you know, then those people.
Float them
they
over to
spread
float 'em
out.
over to Young's Boatyard. You know, put them in the parking
I
lot.
did ask that question. I suggested the Widow's
Smart.
Walk parking lot. And,
Well, what
it's a
Tricia is,
matter of- yeah.
you know, you have to move them twice. And then the bad thing is, the more you move them, it's not helping the condition of them. You know, but
Yeah, but
I
we've been
know.
talking about this for 2 years now.
Right.
I know there's some people, I remember when the blogs think I'm going crazy by referencing it. My biggest pet peeve is, it's basically an open space. It could barely be a park. It has a walkway. Unfortunately, that's another issue with all the feces that's on the area there. But I'm saying, you know, it really should be used so that people can walk down and take a look at it without putting a wall of China up there. You know, put them other town properties. Just, to me, it just doesn't make any sense, you know.
I agree with you.
I go crazy. Sorry, I'm jumping. You
Is
got
there
something?
nothing we can do about this year? We can look into it?
There's always something you can do. You put them on a flatbed and move them wherever you want.
Do you know anybody who has a
it's
flatbed,
just money.
Sean?
Hesitant to do that, not
Do you know anybody who has a flatbed
having an
truck?
acting harbor master who has not dealt with it before, in all candor.
All right. All right, two items that I have, folks. First and foremost, last Thursday, fellow board member Tony Vignani and town administrator and myself welcomed our French delegation from Soucy-en-Brie, which happens to be our sister city. And we were accompanied by other town officials and principals, and it was a really great gathering. The committee from Soucy-en-Brie, which is a town committee with Pat Chicard, welcomed them. It was very nice. There are over 44, I think it was, students, and they will be here until, I think, the middle of next week. Thereafter, our delegation will be going over to France somewhere in the realm around February 4th to about the 20th. And so, any event, it was a great take, and it was well done. They still got a few more items, or a few more events, and I just wanted to give you an update on that.
And
Finally...
your French was very good, by the way.
My French was awful. Both Tony and I and Tricia were shown up by Jim Cantwell. Decided to get up and speak in French. Oh, my gosh. The other item, I'm glad, Ann, you're here. Halloween is coming up on the 31st. It's going to be before our next meeting. It's Friday. The merchants and the Chamber of Commerce usually sponsor candy for the kids. That's a great take. The town closes the road so that we're able to have that with the police and protection. So for anybody who is new to the town, consider going down with your children. It's a great opportunity, a special town event that a lot of communities, I don't know if any other community does this, and I think especially given our town, it's another perk that we have that makes it special. And finally, as effective, well, our next meeting will be our last meeting, I guess you could say, that will be the foursome, because it's election day, so please go out and vote. We anticipate we'll have a new board member with us in 2 and 4 weeks. So aside from that, I have nothing else.
You know what, one thing I just want to reiterate, and Tricia mentioned it, and you mentioned it also, is the hard work, of Jim Cantwell and Garrett Bradley, well, I think Jim did most of it, but to get that seawall money to actually come as a grant. Initially, we thought it was just going to be a low-interest loan, is what Sean was bringing up earlier, but they turned it into a grant, so it's $1.8 million of free money to work on our seawalls, and that's really a windfall that we didn't expect. So, kudos to everyone that worked on that, and I think Jim was probably the
Spearheading it, yeah.
Right.
All right. Now, the board is going to go into executive session. We will reconvene in open session after the executive session. We are going into executive session because we are to consider the purchase.
Don't need to do
Nope,
that.
not that
and
one.
Don't need to come into open, because you did that all already.
Good. All right, so we are not going to come into open session, folks, for the public. But we are going to executive session to discuss the strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may, which I am deeming to have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, that is your town of Scituate, and the chair, that is me, so declares, and I am declaring it because it is collective bargaining concerning the fire union. So, I need a motion to go into...
The third one there.
On the third one?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. To discuss the deployment of security personnel or devices or strategies with respect thereto.
Motion? You got it?
No, I need a motion or a roll call. I thought somebody has to do a motion, doesn't
Yeah, we're going to do a motion.
Move to go into executive session to discuss the strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, and that if an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining and litigation position of the public body, as the chair declared. You just heard him. This is for fire. And lastly, to discuss the deployment of security personnel or devices or strategies with respect thereto.
Motion by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Toole. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And now, Lorraine, can we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Danhe?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Vignani?
Yes.
Mr. O'Toole?
Yes.
Good night, folks. Thank you.